Hey, time is 1 o'clock. This is our, are you gonna record this?
Oh, yeah. Well, Diedrich's got it too.
Oh, okay. So do I need to wait until you record or just go ahead and have you record?
Yeah. Hey. We'll let Diedrich do it.
Okay, well, welcome. This is November 27th, the special meeting. And on the agenda today is the purchase and sale agreement. Gonna work that out with our attorneys at hand here, Bob Hill and Braylee and Kate. I don't remember Kate's.
Billing,
Thank you.
yes.
And then also discuss the preliminary draft budget. So let's jump right into the purchase and sale agreement.
Okay, that's always exciting. Oh, you guys moved around, somebody joined.
Oh, yeah, somebody just joined.
Kate, do you want to start where you guys are at? Have you had a chance to talk to the board about what we talked about?
I didn't get a chance to connect, no, but we both looked through it and have some comments. Do you want to start?
I think let's just, if we can, just sort of plow through the draft that we got back from Mr. Carey and his attorney. And my thought is that if the commissioners are comfortable doing so, given the deadlines that we have associated with the grants, that the action that would be potentially considered at the end of this discussion would be to authorize Leanne to negotiate and sign the purchase and sale agreement with the Careys, subject to one commissioner approval. And if that's an acceptable course of action, then we'll work our way through the agreement and take direction from everyone on where we're going to land on the terms and get that draft back out by this evening. And so that everyone has a chance to look at it tomorrow, and maybe we can get this finalized as soon as possible tomorrow or no later than Wednesday. Those were my thoughts, but by taking that action, we wouldn't have to notice another special meeting.
Okay. Board?
Yeah, I spoke with Pete this morning and that's what he suggested, and I thought we should discuss that, but and time is of the essence at the same time. I'm looking forward to home. Can we further discuss that following by going through this?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not asking for that now. I just wanted to say that is one outcome following this discussion.
Okay, very well.
Does everyone have a copy of the agreement that Mr. Carey's attorney sent back to us? I believe it was last Tuesday.
I
do
not. That would be the one with the notes on it, correct?
Yeah, I love the red line on it that we put in.
Oh, I don't have red line one.
Okay, well,
Right off the
Do you want me to email it to you?
Yeah, my laptop would have.
Somebody can. I don't have the latest.
So, yeah, why don't you email it, and my computer's not working.
Oh.
So can you,
Jeff, do you have a copy? I can make copies of?
I'm sorry, what?
Do you have a copy? I can make copies of?
That's the easiest way to do it.
yeah, that's great, but Ted doesn't have one, so he'll need one.
Make sure this should get it right. No.
I can forward.
Yeah.
Oh, I haven't seen it right.
Jackson@portofallen.com.
Okay, T Jackson.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you.
Oh,
I'll just start out by maybe talking philosophically about the purchase and sale agreement first before we get into the weeds. There's a number of moving parts. I mean, there's the property acquisition component. And the property acquisition requires a boundary line adjustment to be completed. And the vacation of the intervening alleyway to be completed so that it's a contiguous piece of property that's being acquired that encompasses the wellhead protective radius. And so closing cannot occur until those steps are completed. And that's why from the property standpoint, that we have those identified as contingencies that need to be satisfactorily resolved so that we can proceed to closing. The other component, of course, is the purchase of the water system. Now, it's important to keep in mind that this is an asset purchase. The port is acquiring the assets. It's not acquiring the business. It's just acquiring certain assets. And so there's, as part of that, there's contingencies associated with review of all the water service contracts, the various easements that are in play, and related issues. And that's just a body of work that has not been undertaken at this time, although we have started receiving some documents in that regard. But that's just a body of work that needs to be completed to be comfortable with the water system that's being acquired. Because the port will be stepping into their shoes in terms of obviously operating this water system. And so just philosophically, there's all these steps that need to occur before we can actually go to closing. And realistically, it seems that, especially given, the holiday season and that sort of thing, that closing by January 3rd, as proposed by Mr. Carey, it seems awfully optimistic. The way we had drafted it was that there'd be a 60-day review period with an ability to extend it for another 30 days, with the goal of closing no later than March 31st. So in essence, at the end of the first calendar quarter. In a brief exchange with Leanne, it's my understanding that getting the alley vacation done, that by itself may take a couple of months just to get that through the county process. And so so that's kind of philosophically where I'm at in trying to analyze the transaction. Is a lot of work needs to be done, an investigation needs to occur, boundary line adjustment and alley vacation needs to occur. And when all these steps are completed, the parties can proceed to closing. And so I'll stop there and see if Mr. Carey or his attorney have a response or exactly how you guys want this to unfold, but that's one of the themes we wanted to address.
But I hear what you're saying, although I don't agree with you that there are things that need to be done prior to closing. I think you could have a closing and have reserves as we propose, and then those things get done. Straight contingencies, that's not what I'm understanding the parties want. So what I'm understanding the parties want is they want the sale to be closed and to move forward, and then in that regard get everything done. But it's not.
How can we close if there's no deed to convey the property? That's just seems contrary to what closing means. That's when the deed transfers.
Well, we will have a deed.
Well,
Because we will have the boundary line adjustment language from to close. We'll have that language from our surveyor.
Okay, will it have been approved by the county so that the county will recognize the legal description?
County is about 120 days out from what I understand, so.
Okay, so generally an assessor and the auditor won't accept a legal description absent that step occurring.
Well, it poses problems if it's a contingency.
Well,
And what are those problems?
They won't close, so you'll miss your money deadline. You won't have.
does it have to close or just be a purchase and sale agreement?
Just,
Fine.
DOH has to be just the purchase and sale of it.
yes, we're not subject to the time of the grant money, we're subject to giving them the purchase and sale agreement followed, just followed by the process for us to get this done.
Yeah. And, you know,
Yeah, we're working with three funding agencies.
being a realtor, generally, things do have to be pretty tight to close for escrow.
Right,
So
right.
I kind of follow through with what Pete is saying. But you know,
The one angle that's a little bit different. The reason we took this tack is one to get the port in position to start doing milling and what have you. That was one thing. Second, another point is there are 4 4 lots that are clear, they have no BLA, they contain the well. We have a sanitary setback. Technically, when I say technically speaking, as you know, in the Clav Allen, the lot owners own to the center line. There is no public right of way, like in the caving of that alley. So we were looking at ways to kind of say, okay, fine, if you have to hold it out for an escrow type thing, you know, contingency type thing, you could still close on getting the water system. You could still close on 4 of the 6 lots, totally. There just would be these 2 that are hung up in the BLA.
so it's these,
Be hung up, yes.
those 2.
Because we're changing the lot lines from running this way to this way, so
Yeah.
that, so the port has, we're not creating new parcels, so we don't have to go through a hearing
Correct.
the county. So we're staying the same size. Okay,
Yeah,
so we're, basically, when it's all said and done, there's, 30,400 square feet. And then, like I said, there's a sanitary setback already recorded for the well.
I just want to make sure we're doing things right, though, because you know, what happens if things go,
So it's,
you know how it goes.
I know,
And if we aren't crossing our i's and dotting our t's on this, when it does close, if it was closed previously, before all this is done, then we could be liable, and that's my concern.
there has to be. Yeah, we're trying to balance 2 different things. If the board isn't gonna take over at the first of the year, then that changes the dynamics. All I'm trying to do is make it easy. You have the budget issues in the board.
Correct.
And so by pushing this up, I'm trying to get you so you can collect those connection fees that are sitting on those 6 or 7 lots right off the bat.
Right.
And I'm also trying to get it so that you basically have 15 plus 6 or 7, billing.
Kind of question. Pete, are you hearing that?
I was gonna ask, thank you.
Yeah, I'm catching most of that.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah,
So
you
if
know,
I,
yeah.
should I go ahead?
Should I?
Yeah, go ahead, sorry.
No worries. I just didn't want to overtalk. My apologies. But so if I understand, so the 4 lots that in essence encompass the well site and the majority of the protective radius would be transferred at closing.
Right.
And then the other 2 lots as reconfigured after the BLA would then be transferred at a later time.
Well, technically, I mean, because there isn't a legal description that's required, that's what you're saying. Because the BLA, I'm just trying to reiterate my understanding, because the BLA is not completed, then they aren't able to transfer title, correct?
Correct, but what I'm just throw this out there as an idea, as somewhat of a middle ground, is that if the 4 lots were acquired where the well site is, And then a 100-foot exclusive protective radius covenant and easement
Okay.
was placed on the property on the other side of the alley. That would satisfy DOH requirements.
They just said that that it's in there already, where is it?
Well, I mean, they don't have a copy
Right.
of that covenant, but I'm saying the covenant has been recorded since 2010.
Did you hear that?
Yeah.
Okay,
See, that's what's beautiful about having feasibility contingencies. We'd have an opportunity to do this investigation and run these things to ground. But there is a potential solution to, in essence, a two-step property acquisition, if that's what the proposal is.
Yeah, that would be okay.
Yeah,
yeah,
We want to do something that keeps the deal together,
yeah,
keeps it straight.
that sounds,
without the details, we've actually talked about this in general terms about within escrow, and we just didn't know what that was gonna look like yet. You know, contingencies, but also with escrow in place, because we've got the purchase and sale agreements we can come to agreement with. And I'm hoping that, both the attorneys can come up with some language that can help that happen. I mean, I suspect we will. But what do those look like, step 1 and 2?
Well, okay, so at closing, the 4 lots that encompass the well site would be transferred by statutory warranty deed.
Okay,
And then there would be a holdback of an appropriate amount that would be released to Mr. Carey upon completion of the boundary line adjustment and the conveyance of those 2 lots to the port.
okay.
yeah, that sounds, what you proposed, just.
Right, because
Yeah, okay,
trying to hit the different timetables,
correct,
we're having trouble.
Right,
But at the same time, felt that, we had everything kind of in position, it just, the legal deed recording the BLA, the vacation,
Mhm.
again, in this county with the vacation, unless the county takes a 180-degree view change, all the vacations except along the waterfront have all fallen into place, somewhere in the, the 90 to 120 day window.
yeah.
So when it's nice to hear that there's a wellhead protective covenant already recorded. That's great to know. So I'm assuming that covenant also encumbers what I'd call the 5th lot on the, what is it, the block?
48, yes.
Yes, so it encumbers that little area on block 48 as well.
Right, and it's recorded, I checked the records, which, we can provide copies, but I checked the county records to make sure that that was showing up against the title. And when that lot was sold to the last owner, I made sure, although it would be verbally, but verbally I told them, you cannot build in that area without, the county approval or state approval or whatever. In other words, and I actually recommended that he'd actually change that's maybe that lot 6 and lot 5 and change the boundary so that becomes the backyard to 2 houses instead of trying to fit a house on a narrow lot. So we had at least I had a very detailed discussion with the current owner.
Okay.
But recorded against the property is this covenant, to that parcel.
Okay. Well, and that's, and we'd have an opportunity to to review all that and confirm it and get comfortable with it, but that all sounds great. That it sounds like the steps have occurred and the covenant's been recorded. Just need an opportunity to review it.
Sure.
So that's kind of the property side. I still think that well, the way the agreement was, the revisions that came back, we initially had proposed a 60-day feasibility with a 30-day extension. Mr. Carey, revised it so that it was a 30-day feasibility with a 30-day extension. So if we're talking about trying to get all this work done over the next 60 days, realistically, and then closing probably more like at the earliest opportunity would be the beginning of February rather than the beginning of January. Is that acceptable?
I mean, I'd obviously like to do it sooner, not because I'm in a rush one way or the other, but just trying to make the demarcation. For the billing as well as the court's budgets, in other words, all the administrative type things so they flow. You know, the one unusual thing, and I agree that, you know, due diligence has to be done on the properties and what have you. The one nice thing about this is, you know, the titles can be searched on the property. That's fairly simple in that part. As far as the well and water system, the good part about that is it's been under satellite management
Yeah, the same
Control.
company,
that the port has used
yeah.
since either 2009 or 2010.
Pardon?
I would think that would be very fast.
Yeah, because I don't know if you heard, but we're both using Northwest Water.
Yeah, when we heard that before Thanksgiving, that I do share the characterization that that's a good fact.
Yeah,
Yeah,
So-
and this is the understanding of trying to speed things along.
Yeah.
Is because I contacted Northwest Water this morning and said, okay, what do you need to allow the port to acquire my system? So that basically it's a simple handoff. And in their words to me, which it can be verified, they need the port to request documents. And they will provide, you know, water tests and all this.
oh, then we need to do that right away, so. A lot of time, you know, I'm a realtor, so a lot of times the feasibility can go maximum 45 days, so. Would that even maximum? You know, just to try to expedite things, because again, we're still using the Northwest Water, and I think if we get that going, I'm comfortable with it. But the rest, you know, the board, you need to speak up about that. Too.
Well,
Or,
I don't think that makes sense. I mean, there's no pushback there.
So we're talking 30 or 45 or what are we talking?
not maximum 45, I think,
But you're saying if it's satisfied in 30, no problem.
Yeah.
But
or less.
Or less.
Or less,
Yeah, the port can always waive sooner.
yeah.
Wait.
yeah, that's where I was going, yes.
Yeah.
Then,
No, so are we landing on a 45-day period with a 30-day possible extension if the port needs it?
I thought we were,
No, we'll keep it at 30 or sooner and maximum 45 days. I think we're gonna be in pretty good shape. Really. Again, since Northwest Water has involved and they know the systems.
Right.
So I'm pretty comfortable with that, but even less. You know,
Right.
20
What-
days, sometimes
what-
feasibility is only 10 days, you know, on some.
Right, it may be really fast.
Yeah,
yeah, I'm
but
fine.
we can go with or sooner.
In order to not give people a wider time frame to like, okay, this can go over here now. We need to make it 30 days with an understanding that we maybe extend it a couple of weeks. That's-
Yeah,
You know, 30
Maximum.
and then max.
If you give somebody a deadline, then they work with the deadline.
okay.
So are we landing on a 30-day feasibility period with a 15-day extension?
Yes, yeah.
And then usually there's a period of time between the end of feasibility or the waiver of feasibility if it happens sooner and closing. We had proposed that closing occur within 10 days thereafter.
That
That
would be
sounds
fine.
fine.
Okay with that.
Okay.
Okay. Well, that definitely addresses one of the themes of the exchange of drafts. Now I don't know if this is between, if some of this stuff could probably be handled between the attorneys, but just things like an 8.7, where it says carriers are the sole corporate officers, they struck shareholders. Well, I'm assuming they're the sole shareholders too.
It's a pure nonprofit corporation, so it has no owners.
But it doesn't have shareholders?
It does not, my understanding of the Washington nonprofit corporation, it has no owners.
Well, there's depending on how the nonprofit's formed, there's an option between whether it's membership based or shareholder based sort of thing. So if you could maybe shoot us the articles of incorporation.
You're the governor of there, right? No,
The governors in LLCs.
No.
Yeah. Cause you're a corporation,
yeah,
but it's not,
It's different.
yeah.
It's corporate office,
okay. Who's the governor?
because there's no governor. in
Yeah,
that.
that's, it's just terminology.
No, that's just the profit thing, okay,
It's not an LLC or a
okay,
regular scheduled corporation.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll give you the receipt.
all right.
You know, I'll quote articles.
And then one of the things that is this potential lawsuit with PUD number 3, but it's my understanding that has nothing to do with the water system, correct?
Nothing at all. Nothing.
This
What
is-
number?
You're on.
Which item number was that?
That's 8.8.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
The addition, except that the carries may be party to an unfiled, unrelated suit. If it's unrelated, I don't think we need to reference it.
We just wanted to be above board and disclose.
Yeah.
That's all.
Okay.
Yeah,
It was-
Isn't
it was-
that support?
my client's gonna take care. My
Yeah.
client's gonna take care. of it.
Okay,
Yeah, it doesn't, it,
So it's just no.
Because the question, the way the question's asked, it's, me, so it's like, I have to, in my mind,
Okay,
look,
well, and it would. It could technically create a money judgment, but it's not gonna go that far, which would affect a lien on those parcels.
okay.
Yeah,
thanks.
So-
Oh,
so it would relate that way if it got that far, but it's not gonna get
it's sick for me.
that.
Okay. that adds a little bit of additional flavor to that comment. And then the lease between Cary and URAC,
Right,
it's my understanding that's a verbal lease.
yes, in other words. The corporation pays me a small fee. And, it's taxed in the whole 9 yards, for the use of the water system to operate it. But that would be terminated upon closing.
Okay, so well, even though it's a verbal lease, we'll need to have something in writing that's signed by URAC and Cary terminating that lease arrangement, whatever it is at closing. So that's an additional document to be signed.
Does it have to be recorded or just signed?
That does not have to be recorded.
Okay. Okay.
Now in 8.10, there's a reference to the seller as a party to a PUD 3 agreement and will be a party to a road maintenance agreement. Could you shed some light on those comments, please?
When you connect up to the PUD, there's a contract you sign to have electrical service. So obviously, when it terminates, I need to roll PUD billing. I have to wait for, and then it starts anew with the board.
With work, okay.
Okay, so we're just talking about the electrical service agreement.
Right, the other agreement is that. Europe runs a road maintenance in that plat. And so the port's gonna have one lot where they're in and out, and we had this discussion a long time ago that they need to be part of the plat. And so it would be one lot worth of billing, which is about, depending whether we have lighting or not, basically between 16 and 20, some $22 a month.
Okay.
So is the road maintenance agreement recorded?
Not for those parcels, but it will be prior.
That'd be a contingency.
Yes,
That'd be pretty
that's
cool.
fine.
Okay.
I just never did it because it was less cash here, cash there type thing, so I never
Okay.
did it, so.
We're gonna end up with our marching orders and come to an agreement on this.
I'm sorry?
Go ahead.
We're going through our marching orders here and contingencies we're growing our contingencies here, so we can come to an agreement, for lack of better words.
So. Am I getting into the weeds too much of the agreement to work out some?
No,
Keep going, you're
keep
doing
going.
great.
Okay. So it's my understanding as to the road maintenance agreement that the property that the port will end up owning will have the equivalent of one assessment.
Correct. And we'll get a copy.
Okay. And then it's my understanding that when we had originally proposed contingencies, we had included a financing contingency, but it's my understanding that everyone is confident that the grants and available sources of funds are available and that financing is no longer a contingency.
Well, I'm comfortable with that. We're pretty solid on that, but.
And are you comfortable?
I would say that money's always a contingency. I'm just for lack of, I would want to protect ourselves in case there's something we're missing, you know, I mean, yes, we got everything in place. There's been communication, but I wouldn't want to throw that off the table. I mean, we have performed, we said we're gonna do this, but at the same time, we've got to have all the players doing what they're supposed to do. And I would not take that off the table.
Well, what wasn't part of this whole contingency also the
Yes.
issue of, because we don't control the feds. And
Correct.
because
Yes.
strange things can happen, and so I was providing an out so that we could keep this thing title-wise transferring.
Yes,
So that there would be that, you know, we start like a 10-year note, but as soon as the funding came, it paid off.
it
I'm
has,
actually good with that.
I am too.
Actually,
So-
we're good with keeping that financing clause in there.
Okay, the seller financing clause can be done by means of a promissory note, but you can't pledge the property. You can't pledge public property as security for a debt.
Perfect, yeah, that would be acceptable. Promissory note, are you okay with that? Okay, yeah.
And it's
that's
just,
good.
it's just like any other public debt, it's just the full faith and credit. You don't get to look at a specific piece of property or asset.
Correct,
Right.
yeah, I'm good with it. I mean,
I'm fine.
you're good, okay.
Okay, great.
Okay, I think a lot of these we can have been clarified. During the feasibility period, we're going to be looking at whether or not some of those contracts can be assigned, et cetera. We'll make that evaluation during the feasibility. So the couple of instances where the clause in essence says if assignable, that's fine. It's just that if they are assignable and the port wants them assigned, then that's a condition to closing.
And
We're talking the vendor contracts or the user contracts?
I can do both.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, like in one example is 11.3 of the agreement. Water utility service agreements, where it says seller shall assign and then inserted if assignable, its interest in all water service agreements. It's just that after we've had an opportunity to review all of them and have determined that they are assignable, if the port says we want them assigned, then we'll take an assignment of them. If the port comes to a conclusion that it would rather have its own water service contracts, well, then that's the route it will go.
Are you good with that?
He says yes.
Yeah, well, one way you're just gonna terminate the old ones, put in
Oh,
the new
yeah.
ones, and one way we're just gonna give them to you by way of assignment.
So
Okay.
it's just a matter of academics here to make that.
Yeah.
Yeah, how are we gonna get them to you?
Yeah, we just need a chance to review everything to make that decision.
Okay.
Um,
How was it?
Typically, especially when it comes to a public entity standpoint, in a true default, that means contingencies have been waived. And for some reason, the port just doesn't close. And that's an actual default rather than having an out for one of the various reasons under the feasibility contingencies or the financing contingency now. But typically the remedy is forfeiture of the earnest money, sole and exclusive remedy, pretty standard clause. And it was our hope that our original language could be retained.
Where are we?
Where I-
Section 13, I'm sorry.
Okay.
And mediation is pretty broad.
It is a standard clause from our point, but we're soft on your earnest money at 10 grand. So to make that clause viable, we need something that's gonna give us what we would get in return. So either it needs to be a higher earnest money, which seems crazy from a quarter.
Earnest money plus.
Well, I just allowed our normal remedies, is what I allowed, including specific performance. Any remedies that are available to you are available to us.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
And we have our selection.
Well, I am comfortable with that. I think I'm comfortable with what they've proposed, Pete, unless you think that there puts us in a place of more liability for the board.
Well, it potentially could. I mean, it's, one would hope that once we get through all the contingencies and the contingencies have been waived, that there's not going to be an event between that date and closing that would result in a default, right?
Yeah.
And so the scenario that we're talking about is a remote scenario. And that's why purchasers would like to limit their exposure in that remote scenario to the fixed sum associated with the earnest money. Rather than having it be damages, because the damages could be considerably greater.
Right. Right. So having a solid dollar amount on it without all the other language about damage.
Right, and our liability then is that you walk away from it and all we get is our 10.
So what else would you suggest as a?
Well, that's what I'm saying. It seems crazy to compromise, but now, I don't know. He's probably taking maybe 50, 60, 70,000, something like that, as his earnest. To compensate him for what they have. I'm, and you have counsel, so. Right.
We need some recommendations.
Step in the middle of that. And I agree that it's a remote.
Yeah,
Well,
it's
sir,
remote, I
we
mean,
have to go there.
take the time to create the contract, take the time to do the test, take the time to do BLA. I'm not saying all those things, but then it's not a pay for him.
When you suggested,
Now you make me think.
well, and so,
You know what I'm saying?
yeah, when you suggested at the last meeting in the open forum that, you have reputation going nuclear and we need to be careful, right?
That was in a different context. That was not this, like this,
Okay,
no, this
all
one.
right. I just want to be careful, Pete. What do you suggest?
Well, you know, a pretty standard earnest money is 3%, right?
Yeah,
And some very rough math, just, I did it on 450, so earnest money would be 13,500. And that would be, I would consider,
This is make it 15 and call it good.
You compromise with 15, what do you think?
seems very reasonable.
Okay,
all right, let's get on with that. I'm good.
All
What
right.
about you, Commissioner Jackson?
That's fine.
Okay,
Okay, so I'm going to
Off that clause, because we also had in there in regards to mediation.
all right.
We'd like to see a mediation first before anything's filed.
if we're going to have mediation, then we have to have a mediation clause. And we can certainly insert one, and if we're gonna go down that path, then we probably should have you know, if there's a default, there probably should be a notice and opportunity to cure and then go to mediation.
Well, I'm okay with that. Because that follows along with the focus of what we're trying to do here, keep the deal together.
Thank you.
Okay.
Perfect.
you're good with that? Okay.
You follow it?
Yeah.
Okay, fine.
Okay, I'm sorry, I don't mean to jump around, I apologize, but I'm going back to a comment that was added in section 8.6. And it's primarily, you know, it's great that the seller is not aware of any concealed material defects in the premises and water system. That's great. Appreciate that. Cannot put in the clause except as noted in DOH approved 355-page water system plan, because we haven't seen that yet.
And no problem, I mean, and I'm more than happy to provide that, it just, I didn't want the port to come back and say, well, you didn't tell us about this little water leak we got.
Oh, no, but the disclosure regarding the distribution leak.
Yeah.
Is perfectly fine, that by itself.
Okay.
I just don't want to reference a 355-page document that I haven't seen.
I figured we were gonna include it, but whatever. I'm with you. Fair.
And that, you know, the ending clause in that where the seller makes no reps or warranties other than those specified in the agreement, and the buyer otherwise takes the premises and water system as is.
What number?
Oh, I think it's here in our red section, yeah.
Yeah, it's at the end of that paragraph.
Yeah,
Yeah. That's exactly what I would have asked for if I was on their side. So I'm not troubled by it. They're making reps and warranties. And other than the reps and warranties, you know, that are in the agreement, they're not making any others. And except for those reps and warranties, the port is taking it as is. So,
so Peter, so you want to change some of that language then? That's what
yeah,
you're-
we will revise that paragraph if you don't mind. Because that like that last clause that I was just talking about, that really should be a standalone clause so that it applies to everything, not just that particular section.
Okay.
So you're saying the clause would be there, just not in that section.
Correct.
Yeah, that's fine. The disclosure will be there.
Yeah, the disclosure regarding the distribution leak will be there.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Okay, now that we need to obtain that seller is to obtain for buyer sign off from Northwest Water Systems approving the transferring and merging of the Allyn Carey water system. Well, I don't think that needs to be in there. Explain that to me. Because we're gonna decide whether to take an assignment of the Northwest Water System contract, right?
Well,
During feasibility.
on Northwest Water System.
Well, we'll probably keep.
We'll keep them.
Yeah, and that's what I think we're worried about it.
Well, you're concerned?
I'm trying to remember.
Yeah,
Okay.
we've talked about a lot of things, so.
I think we're okay with that. We're gonna keep them. We're gonna keep Northwest Water.
I think we didn't know how Northwest Water is also gonna handle the handoff, so I had Bob put in language saying there'll be a sign off, because I didn't know what their mechanism was.
So,
They'll either be assigned to you or. They'll have a contract.
so some language that shows that there's gonna be a change of responsibility, if you will, and continue with Northwest Water. I don't, however that looks, Pete.
Yeah, in my mind, this is really the parties agree to cooperate to evaluate and make this happen.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there you go.
Okay, and then I'm gonna jump over to the list of provisions that were added. So these are sections 28 through 33 at the end of the agreement. Okay, so the first one is rates to water system payers or water system customers. That the port is agreeing not to assess or charge any connection or any type of administrative fees to the original 15 water users on the system. I certainly appreciate the comment with regard to connection fees in their traditional water system sense. But administrative fees are always incorporated into all future rate studies. So that part of it would be, wouldn't be able to agree to that.
Wasn't that giving a public funds?
Would be asking, would it be gifting the public funds?
I'm sorry.
Would it be gifting of public funds by not doing that, or?
Well, all rates have to be uniform for all your customers,
Yes.
unless there's a justifiable basis for differentiating them. And that has to be based upon a rate study that's usually done by a third-party consultant. Okay. So since all rates have to be uniform and all rates need to anticipate and address administrative costs for administrating the system into the future, the port cannot agree to exclude the 15 customers from administrative costs.
No, I agree. We can't get boxed in the corner.
well, and I see where you're coming from. The issue was, it was where administrative came into our, or at least my thinking was, it's not uncommon that a water system gets a client. And then there's like transfer of ownership, like one owner and then they sell the house and then there's a fee for the transfer. All I was saying is I didn't want to see fees to the new users, you know, transferring or connection or that kind of thing.
Yeah,
I don't have a problem with them going into the future that they are responsible for your administrative fees, because that's part of your water rates.
So it's kind of broad language that we need to redefine here. You know,
Yeah.
Did you hear him?
I did. And yeah, it just understood on connection fees because those fees are paid and they're already customers.
Right.
And so, but whatever the rates and charges that the Port Commission decides to establish going forward will apply, whatever those are.
Well, like Delta Water, if there's a new customer, they charge $100 for reconnection. I mean, and that's part of what is that what you're talking
Yeah,
about?
and I guess part of the contract here was. You remember when I started this premise, my rates were lower than the ports,
Correct.
and so I was trying to
Keep it.
remove the shock. From going from one to the other, because I knew the rates were gonna be this.
Yeah.
I've been letting different users know the rates are gonna be higher. So. So to me, I was saying administratively, to get this over to you. And to have all these users so you can begin billing them. That administrative was not gonna be there. Anything for future rates, yeah, that's.
Oh, I see what you mean, just
Yeah.
about the initial transfer.
Yeah, it should transfer.
Are you,
Well, I wouldn't expect that anyway, that
No.
you would do that,
I
so, did you hear him?
Yeah, that's not a. That's not a cost, the cost of the transaction. Or administrative costs associated with the transaction. Wouldn't be a fee or charge that would be part of your rate structure anyway, so we couldn't do that.
right,
I didn't know for sure, so.
Yeah, okay,
okay,
so are we okay to take that out?
Well, we'll boil it down to connection fees.
Yeah, why don't we do that? That's better. Yeah.
And the next sentence, without a lot of explanation, I struggle with it. That the Port of Allen agrees that the purchase of the water system only applies to the Department of Health July 8, 2016 approved water plan and service area. We're buying the water system subject to any existing approved plans, but
Right.
we can't agree with the service area and saying that somehow the water system is as defined in that plan, because the water system plan is going to change.
Well, but it would change. And that would go forward. What I wanted to make sure is that the port can come back and say, here's your service area. In other words, we have a design that's approved by the DOH and engineering. I wanted to make sure that if somebody didn't misconstrue that you should be able to take water service and bring it down another street off of our system. Because that hasn't been, we didn't bring that into the service area yet. So in other words, that the port, for example, if you brought it on Wheelwright north of Wade. And you decide to use my line, which you could, we don't have that set up as a service area. So I didn't want the port to think that, hey, because you have this ability to put, 30 more connections into your existing system without any improvements, except for running a line down Wheelwright Street north of Wade, that it would be okay. In other words, I'm not approved for that. So I was trying to keep what you're buying from me is what's been approved within that scope, nothing more, nothing less.
well, we just need language that says, should we need to do that, though, we will.
Yeah, and that, remember when we talked
Well,
about,
you can't, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
remember when we talked about the fact that you're going to have to go to DOH and incorporate mine into yours anyway.
Right.
But at the point you buy it, you're not there yet. And so what I was trying to make sure is that people didn't misconstrue that
Okay,
you could take our water system and run it down Wheelwright North as Wade Street and call it good, because it's not approved.
all right, so what should that language look like, Pete, so that,
Well, I'm noodling here. Maybe it's something along the lines that the Port of Allen agrees that the purchase of the water system is the system as described in the Department of Health approved water plan dated such and such.
I think I'm fine with that.
Okay,
that's simple.
Yeah, that's okay.
I'm fine with that.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so section 29 is this agreed use of Northwest Water System. We've kind of talked about this already. Although it sounds like that's an inevitability, it seems, because of all the alignment of interests and et cetera. We view that as a matter to be resolved in the feasibility period, rather than committing to it.
good with that.
So you're saying that something in the feasibility study could say that we don't use Northwest Water System.
Well.
Could you repeat that?
What'd you say?
Could you repeat what you just said? We couldn't hear it.
Yeah, sorry about that. So something could happen in that, what I'm hearing you say is something could happen in that feasibility time where you decide not to use Northwest Water System.
Well, but, or conversely, what if Northwest Water System said, we can't do it, we don't have the capacity?
Good point.
I mean, it's all seems unlikely,
Right, but we need to be able to adjust if something like that did happen.
so let's just strike that clause and agree that we'll just get it resolved during the feasibility period.
I don't think
So you're gonna add clause to the feasibility period? Is that what I hear? That we're saying?
Yeah, that just becomes part of the feasibility period. The entering into the contract or taking an assignment of the contract for the Satellite Management Authority.
And that's already addressed in 10.2.2, so it's already in the agreement to do that, as Pete suggested.
Good thought.
Well, it's a kind of a tricky way when they're trying to tell somebody they have to use something.
Exactly.
So that's where the problem comes in.
Yeah, so how about in the event that, for whatever reason, the inability for them to do what we need to have them do, that we're somehow some language that gives us some room to be able to adjust to that. I don't know what that looks like as I started to try to do that.
Well, I think it kind of goes, when we discussed it in the context of the other provision, it goes to the, I think how we were talking about is that the parties agree to cooperate
Yeah,
to make this happen.
right. I think that's an appropriate way to handle that and not have that language in there.
Got it, yeah. I'll to see what your languages you're proposing on that, but
Yeah.
I think that's okay.
So you,
It can't be constricted that you have to use Northwest Water, and that's not our intent. Our intent is to make things go smoothly, and then also to protect the system and protect the clients that are on, like, their clients.
Yeah.
Okay.
Client.
That can be cleaned up.
So we want to take care of them.
Okay, that can be cleaned up.
And that, and if you got a hold, and you're not doing this, but if you got a hold of it and you went out to somebody who didn't know what the hell they were doing, wasn't familiar with the system, then you could have all kinds of problems on your hand, and this whole thing would blow up, and that would could potentially cause problems for them. So down the road, so that's the intent.
Okay,
Did you hear that, Pete?
Yes, I followed most of that.
okay. We just don't need that in there, in my opinion.
I think what we're really saying is, let's do the new language, right?
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
what I want.
let's take out that clause and we'll go, we'll use the language that we previously discussed.
Okay.
Then the next one, and this appears somewhere else in the proposed revisions, is concerns this compliance with RCW 5308.040. I don't have a problem if we have a clause that says the parties agree to comply with laws, all applicable laws. But would that be acceptable?
Yeah, that's fine.
Just so you know, because I don't agree with your characterization of what 5308.040 does in that statement.
Oh, okay. So that's the road. I got it. We'll start by saying, okay. And we'll,
Well, all laws would just include it.
Yeah.
It just.
Because I mean, a lot of people are familiar like with cities that have enterprise funds.
right,
Like all water revenue has to be used for water system purposes and things like that. That doesn't apply to ports. Ports don't have enterprise funds generally. Unless they have a special industrial park, or they have those sort of things, a ULID or something like that.
but
But
then that RCW doesn't mention anything about enterprise funds, but I hear what you're saying. Let's just move it ahead and we'll run with
okay,
it.
so we'll just put in a general provision that the parties agree to comply with all applicable laws.
That's fine.
Okay, the next one concerns this approved service connection and distribution water service and booster pump to serve additional lots.
There we go.
The old Luther boat.
So without significant clauses to evaluate that, it seems like that's a separate water extension agreement in the future.
Well, I want it now because I want. I- Well, I agree that it's something that's gonna happen in the future, but. You know, I've been experienced, you know, where people, parties, boards, counties, everybody say we're gonna do something and then we don't do it. And so. I have a party that wants to buy properties of mine, but those properties can't work without a booster. Well, if you only hang with what the court's designed so far, which is a deal breaker, it's a 100K plus booster system.
Yeah,
That's why Larry had me look through and see if I could figure out another way to drive the system and achieve the objectives the court had, as well as, you know, reduce the cost.
So you're trying to protect the situation that you've been working on, even though you no longer will have hands-on as far as ownership of it.
Yeah,
Right, and I understand what else there, I do, and so,
in other words, if I represent, this can be connected to the court. But it can't, that's no good. So I'm trying to put in position that. You know, it has to be passed, but that's why I say stamped by the engineer and signed off by DOH. Just like you had the existing booster one approved by DOH. The problem is DOH didn't look at any zoning codes,
Well-
so yes, it works, but it breaks the bank.
so why can't this conversation, this discussion, this particular section. Be more along the lines of without cornering us on this, but at the same time. Talking as a consultant, you're talking about coming on and working with the situation so that we.
Well, based upon their structuring that, I'm not a consultant,
right.
That's
And
true.
so
in-
that doesn't,
In the
so,
topic of
That,
booster.
my understanding, that protects your funding, as you're not a consultant.
right.
Right. And I understand about the booster pump.
I do too.
I just, it's like to me, you're buying a water system, buying this, here's one clause. To say, you know, we're married on this issue. Meaning, you know. If DOH says no way in hell, obviously it's not gonna happen. If we design a substandard system, it ain't gonna happen.
I mean, it does say and or if required. What do you think, Pete?
Well, this one's a tough one for me to get my arms around. It sounds like you guys are far more familiar with the issue than I am. How many connections are we talking about?
Potentially, there's probably around, there's 32 lots above that elevation. That we
You
need
know,
boosting.
I think, Pete, for me, I'm willing to compromise on this and accept it. That's
Yeah,
kind
I don't even know. I couldn't even describe what we're accepting.
Right.
well, I guess because I sat in the parking lot with him and he described what he was gonna do with the booster pump, that's why. Which that doesn't
No,
fly legally, but, okay. I better be quiet then.
Okay, so to spin off on that, so basically, correct me if I'm wrong, the booster pump really is designed to supply the water basically in the simplest terms to uphill to 32 lots.
look,
And you're wanting to protect that because you had a plan you'd like to see continue on, and obviously we want to service.
what I'm concerned about is this. And this goes, whether it's county, court, whatever, I have seen design after design after design. Raise hell with the landowners. I mean, you've seen it in Belfast. The court director gave me an in saying, okay, Jeff. you say this, put it to paper, realizing I'm not an engineer, realizing we'll have to go through engineering. And I've covered this with the potential buyer, saying, you will have to go through engineering. I can only describe the plan and pull the pieces together, and they're gonna have to do. The difference is I have, some knowledge about it, I don't have the degree.
Understand?
And so what I'm concerned about is if you go down the ports route, you won't have development, and the land will stop developing, because it's a very expensive proposition. And it's not cost effective for the port, maintenance.
It's covering areas that should never have been included.
What about if we change the word accept and put allow?
Well, okay. Okay, so this is 32 connections, okay? And so you have to have, you'd have to have an amendment to the water system plan to allow it.
Correct,
And that's what
Okay.
you're at.
right, that's what I'm asking for in this,
You own any of those 30 lots?
yes.
Interesting.
Go ahead, Pete, what were you gonna finish saying?
And so it'd have to be, the design would have to be approved by the port's engineer, whether the port's engineer does the design or not, they'd have to approve it. Because you have to have contractual privity with the engineer that's gonna approve the system. Okay, you can't rely on third-party plans.
Well,
And
first, let's back up a step. The port is contracted, but in my opinion, that's the reason I reviewed this plan, is that the port's engineer did not do the port any service in how they designed it. And so I don't want to get in a pissing contest with everybody, but if you have, the port can hire any engineer, it's a water system design engineer that has a license, they can design it. It shouldn't, it's not married to Northwest Water or to whoever the engineer is.
Sure.
Correct.
So you have an engineer income, he designs it, he stamps it, and then, you have a fee, basically submit it to the DOH to get it approved, or not. And if they do, like they did the other one,
What would happen?
and what ties all that together is typically a line extension agreement.
Yeah.
That is a fairly standard utility document, and it spells out everyone's responsibilities for that and the contingencies associated with implementing it. Because right now, without combining the systems and having the water rights applied to all points of withdrawal, including the carry well,
which would.
but that step needs to occur.
That's in process as far as the policy and water rights.
Yeah, understood. It's in process, but it still needs to occur. And once all those steps and the financial responsibilities for the line extension are in place, but so
it seems like, just holding that thought for a second, it seems like now we got another contention or contingency here, because Department of Ecology has to sign that document, right?
Yeah.
well,
So that,
Sorry.
where I'm going is this is. This is,
Emailed us, they are.
I know, but it hasn't been stamped by DOC or DOE, I mean. So it looks like we have another contingency here.
Well, we have another contingency with this language, or with it, not just.
Well, let's say ecology doesn't stamp this,
I know,
then where are you going?
don't worry,
Well, then you're kind of done.
yeah,
Yeah,
and I get that, but it's the
But
same,
that's not far apart from the original clause. You're saying it's done if they don't stand. So, you want to have
yeah,
a clause that puts things that puts this together. And we can't agree to do the agreement because you can't do that.
Well, I just want to be careful here, Pete, because I also don't want to put us in a position where we are subject, by saying that we'll do this. And, it's all about, timing for the port and being good stewards of the port money, right? So at some point, we need a lot of breathing room there.
Well, the port has a clause, if I remember correctly, in their policies, that basically, and it's very loosely worded, that basically says, okay. You do a line extension, you can either have the port do it, like with Sealand Homes, and Sealand Homes chose to do it in-house, get it stamped, get it approved, and away we went.
Yeah,
I can see what you're saying, but we need the ability.
So I guess what I'm saying is, you have some language,
Yeah.
it's pretty loose.
Okay.
All I'm saying is I wanna hook into that language that says on this transaction. Because it's talking a different part of the service area,
Yeah.
being able to do it. Either through their third party only, or if we decide, Debbie and I decide to. Hire the engineer because of the agreement we're going with the property,
Okay.
have this plan created and submit it. You know, through the port to be arranged. I don't disagree if there has to be more language, but
Right.
there
I'm understanding it then.
so what do you guys think? Pete,
It sounds like this should be a contingency. That the party during the 45-day period, right, the 30 plus 15. Will see if they are able to negotiate in good faith a line extension agreement addressing this proposal.
Yeah, we can go that far.
You know,
okay,
I think
yeah, all right.
I like it.
more money.
I mean, but it just adds more work to complete during that period of time. And it raises additional system capacity questions. And I don't know. I work with Tyson Carlson at Aspect quite a bit over the years, and I know that he's done a report on your water system. But this proposal, it just, I would immediately want to talk to Tyson about it. Because you know, I don't know how much water service capacity you have in your existing water system to make this sort of commitment.
Right, and this is another one of these issues that came up in working as booster. I discovered looking through the engineer's report that there was a point in time where the port made a calculation. And so, for example, peak hour flow, I'm able to service twice the number of users that the port can per, so to speak, per cubic foot. And I alleged to the port that this needs to be addressed and be planned. I even addressed it with the port's current engineer, and then it kind of, for lack of a better word, it got brushed off. And I understand because the port engineer created a plan, and I was coming right at it saying, hey, you got room for probably 200, between 150 and 200 users if you use our data versus the data you use. And we have data per hour, whereas the port only gets to pump one time and it's a whole load. And so some days it's on, some days it's off. So you can't see your peak hour by power, whereas I can.
Okay, well, it's there's a lot of different components that go into water system capacity. There's the instantaneous quantity, which I believe is what you're referring to. I'm not a water system engineer by any stretch of the imagination, but I've been doing water rights for 32 years. And so you have the QI and the QA in water rights, and that's the instantaneous quantity and the annual quantity. And oftentimes your instantaneous quantity, if truly pumped at that rate continuously, 24/7, 365, will far exceed your annual quantity. So there's another stoplight in the process that prevents you from withdrawing at your maximum rate all the time. And that's maybe what they're looking at. I don't know. But
It was not, you'd have to work down through the whole calculation of the peak hour demand at the ports. But the bottom line is this is how we came, this is what drove this clause. And I was saying if it's contingent, fine, we'll add it to it and bring it into the fold another way.
okay,
With that, Pete,
we will propose some language for you guys to chew on.
Good. By Thursday.
When
Okay, so could someone explain to me what the trade-ins are?
Yep. Well, and first of all, there's only one thing that was a trade-in. And that got included, and it probably shouldn't have been included this way. Because it's really a negative to the port, not a positive, meaning you're not holding. The trade-in was, okay, after 20 years of busting my butt to get this water system going. When the port upgrades the pump, which they will at some point. That's gonna be the apparatus I hang on my ceiling. Some people hang fish. Some, the big fish they caught or whatever, this is gonna be hanging on my, man cave.
you want the
He
pump.
wants the museum piece, Pete.
So that's what number 4, was the 5th item. The other items were contingencies, but it sounds like we're working another way around that.
Okay, so
We have a contingency for the ELA and lots to be transferred. We talked about that.
Yeah.
And the vacation in the alley, I think. Yeah. I don't know about. Where.
okay, but I'm sorry, the trade-ins, so when the port upgrades in the future, you want the pump?
Yeah, he wants the old pump,
Yeah,
literally. I'm good with that.
that can be written some other way besides trade.
We'll just change the way it's written so that,
That's
You
fine.
want the pump?
Yeah, he gets a pump.
yeah.
Actually, I understand why.
Blood, sweat, and tears.
I'm going to assume that the pump, when replaced, will be at the end of its useful life and has no value.
I like it better.
And that from a technical standpoint, sorry, but from a technical standpoint, the port will own it at closing. Okay. And to get rid of it, it will need to surplus it.
That's true.
Well,
You pay it all.
Yeah, and since it's less than the statutory threshold, because we're going to say that it has no value, that's typically within the scope of authority of the executive director just to do. But
yeah.
from a technical standpoint, you can't pre-agree on who's going to get surplus property.
It's your public entity.
Yeah.
Yep.
And,
We'll put it up for bid.
You'll
Lowest
be the first
bidder.
one there.
Oh, man, that's
It-
Can he have that first right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
First right.
Or
can we do that?
say that again, I'm sorry.
Or
First right.
can he just have a piece, first right to bid or first right of approval when it's.
How about this? We will give him notice. We agree to give him special notice that when it's surplus.
That hit it over. He's being careful, but thank you, Pete.
Yeah, I understand what
You don't pay the dollar for it.
And I'm gonna rush in and buy it before.
Yeah.
And all the people happy.
Okay, so we're gonna give you a special notice to acquire the museum piece.
Wonderful. Wonderful,
Okay,
special.
with regard to the holdbacks. The delivery of finalized as-built drawings, is that for the existing system?
Yes,
And you don't think you're gonna be able to provide that prior to closing?
based upon my surveyor, since he does the drafting, and based upon he's running behind on getting my BLA, I'm thinking not.
He's been sick.
Oh, so he's doing.
But that's for the existing system, so,
Right. In other words, I can provide a as-built approved by DOH. But over the last 6 years, every time we went in the ground, we'd always we'd check things, and things would be not always quite as everybody represented, be close, you know, within a few. But sometimes elevations were off, and so whenever we crossed, I record, well, over 6 years, I got like 82 notes. And so I'm documenting to make sure all 82 notes get in the drawings. But looking at it, depending how they do it, it may not get done between now and the closing.
So all these contingencies need to override whatever deadline, timeline we have for closing. I mean,
Well, this is a little different. This one,
well, it's a,
you will have an as-built that shows where the lines are. That is approved by DOH. The
Okay.
difference is you're gonna get a more accurate one, but there's not gonna be any additional extensions. So it's gonna be within the range of what was already drawn out. It's just that. You know, just like I was mentioning to you, port doesn't have it, and that single aspect.
Right.
And so I had nothing to reference, and in error, both your engineer and my engineer never told us that we, as water purveyors, when we're doing this construction, per whack, we're supposed to provide as built as you build out systems.
okay, so.
Okay.
So I appreciate that we're gonna have what DOH approved a handful of years ago, and then you've got a bunch of notes as each time you've touched the system to do something,
Right,
and that's gonna be updated, and so the proposed holdback for the delivery of those as-built for the system is $10,000. I understand that. It's just, is that the appropriate amount? Would be my question.
I don't know, any better.
You guys additional updated information.
Yeah.
I mean, you're getting what DOH already, has on record.
first of all, 10K is more than it's gonna cost the drafter to do his thing. But I just picked a number and said,
Yeah, so
"10K."
I'm good with that, if you're,
Okay,
Yeah.
so the BLA being finalized is the next item that it seems to me that if you're paying $297,000 for, in essence, 6 lots, and the BLA involves 2 lots, that shouldn't the holdback be 1/3 of that amount?
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that.
So the holdback would be in essence 99,000.
Right. I have no problem with that. We were going through this and the structures changed a little bit, so I'm comfortable with. Based upon how we talked about the 4 lots,
okay,
so, yeah, I'm fine.
And the vacation of the alley,
It's like,
it's just something everyone's gonna try, is going to pursue and cooperate doing.
yeah, technically speaking, the owner of the properties, which they own both sides. Has the rights to the property. It's just. The way this county has always handled this plat is you have to go through the formal process. It's been vacated by operations, I recall.
Mhm.
It just, you have to go through the formal process to get it title wise changed, but technically. nobody can go through it, you know, if they don't, you know, it's not like it's open.
Yeah, I'm good with the 10.
Well, I think the goal would be, Mr. Carey, for you to start the process, right?
Yes,
And then, then when the port closes on the 4 lots, that it steps into your shoes for part of the application, right? If it still is yet outstanding and has not been decided upon by the county commissioners. And then once the vacation is formal, you're absolutely right. The alley will be split in half and half will go to each side. And then we get both sides once we complete the boundary line adjustment and all that. I mean, it's a sequencing thing. If the boundary line adjustment goes first, then we just step into your shoes as to both sides.
Okay.
If the street vacation or the alley vacation conceivably gets decided first, well, then there's another process to end up in the same spot.
right, I agree.
So that holdback amount, don't really have a basis to question, or it seems reasonable.
Okay. I'm good with that.
Just for taking out the pullback from the trade.
Yeah.
Well, the trade-in holdback would come out.
Right,
The cultural resources study,
right,
that's often a grant requirement. That's why we put it in.
Okay, but I thought it was decided that it wasn't really required, so that's why it was kind of ambivalent. Correct?
I need to check.
Yeah,
I would feel better checking again.
Okay,
Yeah.
because when we went down for the ARPA, it was for the ARPA funds,
Yeah,
correct?
okay.
Yeah, I think it was for the ARPA funds, which is the county, wasn't it?
Larry always told me it was with the,
State?
the capital facilities.
Oh, okay,
Yeah, I'm filling out one for the oyster house right now, and this says that.
okay. So it's 10,000 enough?
Well,
I would propose not including this in the holdback because it's something that's gonna have to be addressed up front to satisfy the financing contingency.
the only reason I had to put in is saying, okay. If this should come up. Fine, we can have a holdout because they've told me that the agency or the organization that does this study. Said it would be somewhere between $2,500 and $3,000. So I was kind of like 2 to 3 times over just to say, okay. But then we had the meeting here a week ago saying, okay, if it comes up, we split it 50-50. Not, that's kind of where we left it last week.
And how long does the study usually take?
It's done less than 60
we were
days.
talking about $2,000 or $3,000 at the moment.
It sounded like they.
Right, yeah, 1,500 aside.
Yeah.
That's the most.
Yeah,
I just going off memory.
right.
I'm just trying to get an idea.
Yeah. We can't be letting that be a showstopper, right? So.
Other than if your grant site, but obviously.
Well, that's the
Yeah,
showstopper,
to get it done.
right?
Well, but if you have a part that we left the financing contingency in, then there's no. It could be a financing issue, but once you get it resolved with your funding, then you can pay off the finance if it got wrong, but it doesn't sound like it's gonna. Sounds like we're gonna get it done within.
So do we put it in there?
But if
We need to put something in there, Pete, to protect us, but
Well, I mean,
Yeah, because, and
go ahead.
typically, these sort of things are becoming a more significant funding issue. I mean, as a condition of funding.
okay.
I mean, we're running into them quite a bit here with the Colville and the Yakimas. They're involved in they comment on almost every project here. So I have a heightened sensitivity to it working for the Port of Chelan County and Port of Douglas County. Because it seems like we're doing cultural resource surveys all the time. Especially when FAA money's involved for Pangbourne Airport. So it's, let's leave it in. I don't think it's an appropriate holdback item. I think it's more of an item that we need to resolve as part of the financing contingency. And then at the end of this 45 day period or 45 day period, the port will need to decide whether it has enough certainty as to financing that it can either do the promissory note route or it's already entered the grant agreements. It's just be mindful that we could be 45 days from now and you, by proceeding with closing and going the promissory note route, the port's assuming risk
Yeah,
that it won't get the corresponding financing because something comes up. It's just we're trying to create a period of time to get to a level of certainty that where there's a high degree of confidence. We're not quite there yet.
Are you suggesting we leave it in or take it out?
move it. If it's gonna be anywhere, put it in part of the contingency for the financing, but not here,
Yeah,
right?
and it's in 10.2.2 already.
0.3,
Excuse-
10.2.3.
Yes, and we put it as an elective because we didn't know at the time when we drafted this whether it is a grant requirement. So it's seller may elect to conduct.
Okay,
The results must be satisfactory to the purchaser in its sole discretion.
You know, the weird thing about this, when I talked to the agency, the organizations that would do the survey.
Yeah.
They were telling me that normally the private sector, in my case, I wouldn't be doing it, it would be the port that would be doing it. But the port kept coming back to me, Larry kept coming back to me and said, if you need this, you need to do this before. So I was like in a catch-22.
Mhm.
So, but I'm saying the agency's always telling me and told me over and over that normally it's the public agency that's doing it, it's not the private sector.
But we can certainly change that to say the purchaser may elect. Because it's really what the triggering event is going to be the grant funds and the grant contracts.
well, I'm good with that. Yeah, that's something that we need to verify whether we have to or not.
And if you don't, then you just don't.
And
Yeah.
whether or not it needs to occur is really the port's decision based upon,
That's fine, so we're saying we'll pull it out from our side and it's on.
Yeah,
Okay, fine.
yeah, we're good. I'm good with that.
And two.
okay?
Okay.
So that kind of completes our review. That the recitals that Mr. Carey put in, from our standpoint, those would come out because we've addressed them every place else.
Yeah, but if something happens and there's a breach, we want to be able to know and have in front of the court the intent of the parties. And you won't have
The
that.
purchase and sale agreement is the intent of the parties.
No, it's not.
Yeah, it is.
No, no, you won't be able to bring any evidence in to show what it is.
Yeah, but I don't know. Those recitals are elsewhere in the agreement.
They're supposed to be on sort of agreement.
Who are we talking
So-
about?
Why state the same thing twice?
Because the party can rely on the intent. And I'm able to bring evidence of that intent if it's mutual.
Well, hopefully you will find our revisions acceptable.
Well, I was understanding from Kate that we were just gonna take out number 7.
Well, I had suggested some revisions, and then in talking to Pete more as we were walking through them, each of them is already in the agreement,
Yeah.
so it is redundant. I don't think it's a deal breaker to get hung up on the recitals, but it is redundant.
Well, I agree, it's in the agreement. And that all the recitals would naturally be in the agreement.
Yeah, because we have addressed 7 and 8.
They're all in there, most of it, except for the maybe the very
This is,
last one.
this is kind of what got us sideways last year. Was Larry and I,
Okay,
because the agreement didn't have structure. So the attorney could do his thing, and so. From a layman's point of view, the instructions I've gotten is. A contract's supposed to be able to quickly picked up by a judge, looked at it and know the heartbeat where we are without having to go through the whole. And that's why we're all messed up last year with that other agreement.
So help me out, so the recitals are really just a way to draw out the contract. Highlighting some issues in there that need to be looked at just from like a bullet list.
But, yeah, it actually goes to. The ability of the court to interpret the contract. So there's a 4 corners test, so the document would be picked up where the document has an integration clause. Looked at, and then the language in it's usually given plain meaning. But no outside evidence will come in. Nobody will sit down and say, well, I was at that meeting and the intent when you said this was this. Okay. Because of that merger clause keeps that out. And a court cannot look at unilateral intent. So when we're looking at those 4 corners, you can't rush in and say, I meant this. That's what we meant. But it can hear mutual. And when we put these recitals in, that allows me then to bring Jeff in and say, hey, look,
So what would
this
be
is what they meant.
what would be an example, Bob, if that God forbid that should happen? That would draw us into that scenario. This could be one scenario for lack of performance because we don't get the grant.
Well, it could be a lot of things in a technical contract.
I know.
What, what did you mean by DOH approval? What did you?
Well, when we're going to there, we already have a problem that's brought us to that point where now we have to.
Right, I'm hoping you don't have a
Right.
problem at all.
So I'm just trying, the only issue we would have if for some reason, on our end, would be something goobered up and with the financing that we were being told we have. That's it, and then the rest of it is just the language in order we agree upon. So I'm trying to understand what would draw us in and be in, for lack of performance or, lack of faith. I don't see it. So my question to you, Pete, is, what here do you think would, be satisfactory for us as you're being our attorney that you and Bob could look at and talk about right now, or you want to just do that later?
I'm not gonna get into a litigation or pre-litigation discussion right now. That would be my preference. The all purchase and sale agreements stand on their own. I mean, all contracts in essence stand on their own. If you want some of these distilled down, but I don't understand why 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 aren't those just all restatements of what's already in the agreement?
They are.
What flavor is being put on those comments that I need to be aware of?
There's nothing, there's no flavor on it. They're just the intent of the parties. Well, we can remove them if you remove the merger clause. Just take up the integration clause. It's I thought I saw it next one. Right.
Pete, I got a question for you.
Well, let's get through this one.
It's long one.
Yeah.
If it's not in there, we can take it out.
Okay, all I'm saying is in the general provisions, it says there's no verbal agreements which modify this agreement. Constitutes the full understanding. any modifications must be in writing. So pretty standard stuff.
Yeah, I don't see that integration clause.
That is the integration clause. You just read it.
Oh.
Yeah.
What number was that one? Can you read that again?
I don't know.
It's paragraph 27. that
Oh.
page referencing.
Oh, gotcha, okay, here we go. Okay,
And not all of it is the integration clause.
okay. So we take the whole thing out then?
Well, just the part that there are no verbal agreements. to
Oh,
modify
okay.
This agreement.
And what verbal agreements are not represented in the purchase and sale agreement?
Does that sound okay? Right, what you just said?
Right, but we're not talking about verbal agreements that aren't in the agreement. We're talking about afterwards, what they mean.
Well, don't we have, if we're gonna modify this agreement, don't we have to have it in writing?
We should, yeah, that's fine.
Okay, then why can't the language stay the same? There are no verbal agreements which modify this agreement.
No, because that's a purpose of an integration clause is to eliminate parole evidence. So that the four corners of the document stand. And if you eliminate my recitals, then the four corners can't stand. There needs to be the ability to bring in parole evidence.
Okay, well, I'll ask my litigation team to respond to you.
Yeah,
Because I don't share your view, but I'm not a litigator.
Is it up to the board to make a recommend, I mean, not a recommendation, but
Well,
I think let them work. Let them work it.
okay,
I think the recitals are redundant. Do not add anything to establishing any sort of intent. And I think this conversation is frustrating.
I like it that it says there are no verbal agreements to modify this agreement.
that should be in the two, the recital.
I'd say right now, it's gonna see what we got,
All right.
because I think
I've done pretty good an agreement except for that. I think we're done.
Yeah, we've done real well until just now. I don't mean this is bad either. I just mean that we haven't had everything's been agreed upon. So I would really like to see the attorneys
yeah,
get this worked out without any further frustration, right?
So I think we would need the motion. you
So-
suggested.
I don't know if we're ready, but if we want to come full circle to where we started. And we've worked through and landed on some, compromised outcomes and better understandings on the processes that need to unfold and the work that needs to be done after we actually sign the agreement. So in the interest of time, if the commission is comfortable doing so, it would be a motion to authorize Leanne to negotiate and sign purchase and sale agreement with the Careys and Uric community water system. Subject to one commissioner approval.
Commissioners, I'll make that motion to allow the interim director and one commissioner, preferably the chair, to sign and negotiate the rest of this agreement. Upon, I would like to see the document, the final document.
shouldn't be a problem.
They did. Wait.
Right. One question I had is, okay, so we have this,
I have a motion on the table. Did anybody hear me?
yeah.
I did hear your motion and then there's a discussion at the same time and I wanted to hear that too. Thank you, Commissioner.
Well, shouldn't the discussion be between the commissioners on my motion?
yes,
Yes,
Sorry,
I'm trying to follow all parties here, so,
You can second it, then we can have some
Yeah.
discussion. if you want to.
Right.
Was the motion seconded?
No, it has
No,
not
it's
been.
not. I want to second the motion, but as far as who that commissioner is, it's like one of those. I'll second that motion. With contingent upon, anyway, I'll second that motion, but I'd like to discuss who that commissioner is gonna be, right? So, I mean, it could be any one of us.
He said the chair,
Did he say the chair? I didn't hear that.
yeah,
Okay, I'll second that motion then.
oh, okay,
Didn't hear that.
okay. So, discussion. Do we need some discussion?
I wanted to hear what they were talking about,
Okay,
which is part of this discussion.
it isn't really part of your motion, our discussion.
Okay.
okay,
Our discussion was based upon if I literally took what was being presented versus what Bob has put in our contract. We want to know if I understood what that meant, which is again not part of this,
okay,
Okay,
and I do, and I'm not thrilled. Because it should never come to that point. But we don't, we can only control at best what we control, not everybody else, and
Okay.
so. I'm concerned that there's potentially a problem,
okay,
but that's not part of your motion, sorry.
Okay.
So,
all right.
okay. So all in favor signify by saying aye.
Right,
I,
Aye.
all right. What could potentially be a problem?
But when we get this draft, it will need to be shared amongst all of us. But then I have to decide because otherwise we would have a meeting.
Right,
Correct.
and then,
So I will, I can confer with you. If, you know, when it comes to that.
the only,
You know, my lawyer.
personally, I don't have a problem with you, either way, you have a meeting or either way, I'm game either way.
I know, my time would be.
No, I know, I understand.
Really don't have
I'm
time
a
to
little-
do this.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm
We need to get it done, yeah.
My big picture role,
yeah,
I'm concerned there's this thing sitting out here. And, that hasn't, there's at least one clause here that's a little shaky at the moment, or you don't want to say clause, one section. And at the same time, if I put the big picture on, I don't want to force one board member to feel like the whole decision, went left or right just because of what they thought or didn't think. I want personally, I feel more comfortable when the board's doing it only because,
oh, I see.
we're all for one or none for all.
No, I agree.
And so that's, as far as getting approved now, I technically don't care how you want to work it. Stepping back now as a citizen, as a taxpayer of this district, what if the shoes were reversed, how would I look at it? And I'm uncomfortable when there's a variable to be hammered out that you may agree with it, and that everybody may agree with it. But the other two have not had a chance to look at that or think about it.
Well, but at the same token, we plan on looking at that draft,
That's fair.
and
But see, you can't talk to her.
no, but we're gonna be talking to Leanne, followed by looking at
But I
that.
don't wanna,
That would be a serial.
I don't wanna get I don't wanna get a serial meeting.
You don't wanna,
Yeah, I guess that's where it
we
is.
do have time to actually post it to the next meeting, we just make,
Well, we post it now,
right.
right?
Yes.
Yeah, you know what, I am.
It's
That's
not,
right, I forgot about that.
it's not that I wanna bring Bob in here again, it's not that I don't wanna get this through.
Yeah,
No, the way I've gone through my life is I have to flip. And with the shoes on the other foot.
Yeah.
Right.
Does it work? Because when crap happens,
yeah,
I wanna be able to look people in the face as you do, say, hey, we went through a process,
right,
we didn't shortcut it.
yeah, you know what? Can I rescind that motion right now?
Well, it's,
Well, he's the one that made the motion, and
Right, second.
we don't have to do that.
No, it just says further negotiation and signatures.
Okay, if we got a little time to go. Talk.
right, but you can, but also that motion can stand
Yeah.
And you guys, and you can call another meeting, and then when you get through that part, that motion's still in position.
Sure.
And away you go.
Oh, man, I like that a lot, John.
Yeah.
No, it's smart.
Exactly.
Yeah, that worked.
That's really smart. So let's, what he said, we really like,
Right.
to hold that in place, then we have to go through all this again and bam.
Yeah.
Or we don't, or we, because we should meet together in an ideal world.
Yeah.
Without any shortcuts.
So we need to notice this immediately.
Can we do it for Wednesday?
Yeah.
Afternoon?
Easy.
Wednesday, really?
Well-
Okay.
I'm assuming I'm gonna be here.
Yes, the 29th.
Pete,
Yeah.
I have a question for you, sir. So if we were not to do it that way, which is what we're talking about, so we have a meeting, so we are a healthier for it as a commission. Would Wednesday afternoon, and we haven't come up with a time, but Wednesday afternoon. Cause we still have a deadline for the end of the day Wednesday, right? Whatever that, before the end of the day.
It's the 30th.
But it's not that morning, it's the end of the day on the 30th.
Yeah.
Okay. I get it, Thursday. So, can we do this again on Wednesday with the final draft, Pete,
Um,
or what?
We need-
Well, my thoughts are, we don't want that day to be the final draft. We wanna know what the final draft is gonna be, ready to sign.
Yeah.
You guys are just adopting it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I get that. So you're suggesting tomorrow?
Well, whatever it takes. I mean,
Yeah, well, we need to have everything final, pretty much taken a look at it.
And he's gotta be ready
And then-
for it.
Let me ask you this, can we have a meeting to sign? I'd rather have a meeting tomorrow, really. Can we get it done tomorrow?
If he,
Yeah, you can do it.
and Pete, what would be the time frame for you to have this, our final draft?
if you're going to, it's my understanding you voted on the motion.
But explain.
Okay,
Well, I hope you heard everything.
I just procedurally, I just want to make sure we're on the same page here, what we're trying to accomplish, okay? So the motion's been approved, okay? So if you want this to be a commission action, I would suggest you set a special meeting Wednesday afternoon. And hopefully Kate's available. And hopefully there are no outstanding issues and it's more of just a public action.
Which are-
But to try and set that special meeting tomorrow, I think is optimistic.
No, I agree. That's what I'm asking. So if we did for public action on Wednesday, the special meeting, is that work for you?
Well, we'll see how Bob responds to our draft.
Okay,
It's not just our schedule that needs to have this unfold, so. But just the references to this being a shortcut, and I understand the comments. But the ability to delegate authority to take action is explicit in the port statute, so. If you want to rescind the motion that you just made, you can do so. But that's the action of the commission right now.
so we're gonna leave that motion on the table, Pete, and then set up for a special meeting on Wednesday, because in an ideal world, we'd like to do this as a commission. But we don't know how this is gonna go with you and Bob for the final.
Okay. So I don't want to get too technical on procedurally where we stand, but the motion was made, seconded, and voted upon. So it's too late to table it.
Yeah, we're not tabling.
Well, would you suggest that we just have Ted rescind the motion?
And that is an option, yes.
So Ted, would you be willing to do that?
Well, like Pete said, we have the ability to delegate authority. I don't mind doing that. All I ask is that we get a copy in a timely fashion, all the commissioners to review it. So I'll rescind it if it makes our life a little easier. So I'll rescind the motion.
Okay, is there a second on that?
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor?
I didn't mean to complicate things, Pete, but.
No, I'm just, sorry, I'm just a little bit of a stickler for public process.
Yeah, I hear you, and I appreciate that. Just, a point was made, and just really, we all feel better about it as a commission if we come together as a commission on Wednesday afternoon.
Completely understood.
Okay,
So, there's been, the action has been rescinded.
Yeah.
We're gonna set a special meeting for Wednesday afternoon. And Bob, Kate, and I have some work to do.
yes.
Okay, great.
Okay? Now, in the interest of time, when we send out our next draft, Leanne and all commissioners will see it at the same time it's being delivered to Bob.
Okay,
Yeah, that's fine with us.
Okay, and so I ask the commissioners, if you have questions or comments, to contact our office directly.
Okay.
all right, thank you.
Okay.
Okay. Well,
Alright.
I'm sure the budget discussion will be thoroughly stimulating, but Kate and I have got some work to do.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Pleasure to
Thank you.
Those are me.
Okay, we will continue on now with the budget.
Yeah.
I'll step out just a second with Bob, and then I'll go back into that some comments on the
Okay.
budget.
All righty.
But I'll use Debbie as my placeholder.
Okay.
Ooh.
Commissioners, can we take about,
Sleep in the doghouse.
That's what you say?
can we take no more than a 3-minute break real quick?
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay, how extensive do you wanna go through? Do you wanna go line by line?
Well, one thing Erin said is, she got hold of me this morning, and she said, we're cash funded. She's used a gap funding.
Okay.
Say that again?
Bottom line,
Cash funded,
Oh,
that's always been traditional for
yeah.
yeah,
the court.
so our bottom line is actually 49,000.
Is actually what?
49,000.
And where is that? Oh, yes, I see that, okay.
Where is she looking at?
Second
And
page,
she also suggested you get a reserve fund.
okay, it's 2 pages. You have extra copies. You have more copies, just the 2 pages.
That's me.
Okay.
You know, when I say we could shave off on, conference fees, lodging, meals, all of that federal expenses
Okay, and where are you at? Okay, the top 4.
of expenses. Yeah.
So since we may not be going to this annual meeting, one of my concerns too is that they were going to submit a thing for Larry.
That's true.
And I don't have to go on,
day.
huh?
Maybe just go down.
That's what I'm thinking, that I could probably take one day
Yeah.
and go down there at least, or even if we let Dee know, I don't know if she wants to go down.
Yeah.
But she's not a court member, so I'm not sure if that would be appropriate,
Yeah.
but,
Okay.
and otherwise I wouldn't have a problem not going, but I think in honor of Larry and his work,
Yeah.
it would be good to do that.
That's good thinking.
So if I go down there, or if we all go, you know, whoever wants to go down there, I'll give Eric a call. And see if it's a possibility that he's going to receive it,
Yeah.
then I'll go. If not, then
I'll just cancel.
yeah,
Well, I planned on attending the meeting down in Vancouver. I think I'm already got the reservation. And if Dee needs to go down, she's more than welcome, so.
okay, so you will be going then?
That's the last confirmation I received, yes, unless something happens additionally with my family, I plan on attending, and I should know a yes or no in the next couple of days.
Well, we're all canceling just to save some money.
Well, that's another discussion.
Right.
this is gonna have to be done by resolution,
Right.
but I say we limit the conferences. Some of us go to one or two of it, these a year, some of us go to two or three. So, and then I think we need as a board to discuss where our staff goes, when they go. And then I think as a board, instead of just saying, I'm going, we need to vote on who goes, who's gonna benefit from it. So,
Right, just have one person go.
Okay.
but
Well,
I do agree on reducing our conference fees and our mileage and tolls for next year and our lodging, so.
Yeah, you guys can go to the commissioner seminar, I can go to the director seminar, and then small courts make sense, because that's only $50 a person.
Yeah, small parts make sense for the three of us, so. This one I was going to go down to because I was asked to go down, but so anyways, like I said, Leanne, if something changes in our family, I'll let you know immediately and let Mandy know, so
Okay.
we don't incur any costs.
so Ken, I don't know if you heard, but Eric Fitch, you know, the executive director was going to submit an award to Larry, or, you know, about I can't remember the technical term, but it was the person who's, you know, contributed the most for the year. And Eric Fitch was going to submit Larry as a nomination for it. So I would go down for one day, but if you're gonna, because I was gonna go ahead and cancel just to save us money, but if you're gonna be down there, then you could receive that if he gets it.
Yeah, that's what I heard, so, yep.
Okay. So I'll get a hold of Eric and find out if Larry's gonna get it, and then I'll tell Leanne.
Perfect. And so can we reduce the conference fees? I was just,
That will reduce them.
okay, perfect.
Big time, because like the annual, that's almost, I think it's $1,000 per person.
It is, and it gets to the point where some of the information is not relevant to small ports. And I feel guilty attending some of those where you get 3 or 4 classes that may be relevant, but the rest aren't. You just attend to attend, so I'd rather save the dollars.
I do have to say, the networking is really critical, that's saved us a lot, so. you
It
know,
has.
I don't wanna throw that on all out either, but. This won't last forever, we'll get back on track.
Yeah, but we also have computer software and social media monitoring, and that's 3141. You know, if we take down our Facebook page, we can save that.
I'd hate to do that. I really would. I think the more visibility, the more people can say that we're interacting with the community, even though a lot of North Mason is above the age of 50. Still people look at the Facebook page. Maybe we ought to do a study to see how many people actually like our page. And if, I mean, we could just do a rough study. And if there's not a whole lot, we could take it down and just focus everything on our website.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Leanne, but we're not paying for the Facebook, we're paying for the monitoring of the Facebook.
Right.
Yeah, so.
Right.
What's going on is this, and it was explained to me, which I was not aware of, just taking a snapshot of it, monitoring our Facebook. I mean, do we really need that?
It's called Archive Social.
That's what we're paying all the money for.
We were talking about that earlier, yeah.
Can we get in trouble?
I don't like Facebook, so I'm.
It's public records. So if somebody says they want to post a copy of a post from 3 years ago, I can produce it.
But if we don't have it,
Yeah, but
we don't
technically,
produce it.
if you don't have a social media presence, then it wouldn't be.
Oh,
Well, if
so-
you don't have a social media presence in these days, you don't have a presence. So, and I'd also like to remind everybody, it was tough to listen. And I know it was tough for Pete and Kate to listen. Please don't talk over each other. So, I can understand the monitoring, but as you're right, Leanne, it is all open for public disclosure. And it causes work staff and time. I'd hate to take it down. So,
Yeah,
But we can come back to that then, if you go down through the things we can shave off.
and I think our revenues, she even said she did it low and she did the expenses high. We're obviously gonna save on salaries if we,
Not right now.
yeah,
Which brings me to the other thing, so, Commissioner Jackson and Chairwoman, I mean, what do you think about limiting for 2024? Limiting paying commissioners not to exceed, like have a smaller amount. And come up with a number that we stay within a budget, try to help support.
I'm more than happy to that. I sent Leanne the compensation of the RCW, and it will have to be done by resolution.
Okay.
But we used to have a line item, each commissioner gets X amount of dollars. Usually the chairperson got a little bit more because they were expected to attend more meetings, be there with the executive director. I have no problem with that. But I do believe the other two commissioners, vice chair and the secretary, should be capped at a certain amount. And again, according to the RCW, we just need to do it by resolution and we can do it. So,
Yeah. I was gonna suggest that we limit that, as commissioners, also, not that each commissioner is not to exceed more than 3 meetings. Right now, I know that some of you are going to more meetings than
I'm good
others.
with that, it's fine.
As far as being paid, just to do our best, putting our best foot forward for 2024 while we shave off other things. What are your thoughts on that?
my thoughts is that we cap it. At like, let's say each commissioner has $3,000 per year. And if you exceed the $3,000, I think the last time Larry and I went through it, it was at 3,800, but let's just do 3,000 per year. And if you exceed it, it has to be done by the other two commissioners. I've been asked to be part of a larger part of PRTPO, and that's 2 meetings a month, just with them at least. So I agree. Let's make sure the chairperson has a little bit more leeway than the other two commissioners, because the chairperson is expected to be basically at the beck and call of the executive director, or the executive director is supposed to be at the beck and call of the chairperson. So,
Okay, I like that, it's
Okay.
just because we're gonna be shaving off in a whole bunch of different areas, right? To get into black. So,
yes, I agree.
Right,
legal fees will be down.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you, that was my next line.
how do we know that?
Yeah,
You're right, I don't know that, but that's the hope.
I think we need to come up with a budget with legal fees up.
yeah.
We need to put that in there.
Yeah,
I have a strategic idea. Legal budget. And it gets along at RCW. Like you bringing up, they want to take out,
okay,
in the contract. And that is that. It gets to this point is, the port exists, and a certain amount of its existence is the water system. Right now, you don't have probably time and data that says, how much of Don's, how much of Dan's, what have you. But it seemed like to me that arbitrarily, until you do the study, very easily you could say 10%, 50% of our salaries, our copier, our electricity, our whatever.
You don't want water system.
Because that's really where it should be accounted for.
correct.
And you're not accounting for that, and then the water wasn't broken out, but.
Yeah, it is.
Well. No, it's not. Not the one I have,
Not like he would do.
not like I would do either, correct. But.
Thank you, Jeff. I used to deal with codes, and so I would have somebody code it to a project.
Yeah,
So if you spent 5% of your time dealing with the water district,
yeah,
5% of those funds would come out of the water district. So,
right, so we're where I'm going is saying, okay, I don't wanna labor the port right now with the task of trying to figure that out right now.
Right.
But I'm saying, you could very easily say. In a statement or a resolution or however you wanna do it, that says. We believe, or we feel, or it seems to be that. 10% at least, it may be more, it may be less, but at least it looks like about 10% of our activities. Are related to the water system, therefore, we're gonna look at each expense that supports the port. And if any of that touches the water system, I mean, even copier maintenance, I'm used to lots of detail, 100 general ledgers is nothing, couple hundred is nothing. I don't wanna make it a posting nightmare, but at the same time, we could start with a general statement and say, okay. 10% of the salary, this, and this. It might be more like for Don, maybe 25%. But get that in under that.
Yeah, where does that 73,000 come for, or, 63 under the water system?
That's where I was gonna go next.
Yeah, where did they come up with that money, that amount? Do you know how she came up with that? It's on page 2,
Oh, I think that was
Expense.
the pump replacement.
down below, right?
No, but I mean,
The 73,000
which one number?
or the 63, the projected for 2023.
Oh,
Okay, so there's 73.
yeah, we're not gonna replace the water pump.
So where did she get that?
That's why you need to, that's why I'm saying it needs to be broken out. 'Cause I don't-
Okay,
In the past, I understood some of that legal was coming out of. Related to Brad when he, under the water, some of that legal should have come under that. I mean, I look at it and I know there's all kinds of expenses coming out of the water, and I run a water system too, I know what I run into.
Okay.
Where I'm going is a couple of things, I think you need to structurally look at that and see where that puts you.
Yeah.
Side note, you gotta remember too, that you can't just have zero here, at the end of the day. At the end,
You can't just have what?
where are you on
at
that?
the end of the day, the whole port budget,
Oh, yeah, okay,
you can't be coming at zero. You gotta have probably 60,000. Because you got those months where you don't get your taxes until.
correct,
Okay,
yeah,
the second thing is, like on the revenue of the port for the water system. Technically speaking, with the rates that go in effect 2024, with the users you're getting from me. And what should be there, I come up with a number closer to 70,000. On just the monthly.
on the water sales.
Right,
revenue.
where they got 34 right
Okay,
now,
yeah,
to me, that should be closer to 71,000.
well, true, but I can see why it's like this right now, because we don't have a person sustainable.
No, okay, let's back up. Yeah, but that's not holding this back, no. You don't have a purchase of selling and collecting 28,000 right now. So
Okay,
I'm saying, you look at the number of connections that sit up there and what's live now. Now,
Oh, yeah.
you got,
That's actually.
right, as you look at all those things, and it comes out to around 70,000. With no I mean, you just have the same contract, just bill for water. I realize not everybody pays, but we have collections,
Okay.
we have, needs, you have all those kind of things. The other thing is, I don't see anywhere in your budget where you're paying these loan payments.
well, that would be up
Yes, so that's invisible.
here, right?
Well, then, and also keep in mind that like when we put up here in the revenue. Where did I see it? I got 3,
Care fund loan.
but that's, one was 1 page and one was 2 pages. Where's the, well, I said. Hey, remember this, when you have grants like the well house, do not, again, get that over under the water, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Get it out of the general fund. It's not the general fund.
Which one are you under? Revenue page 1 for
Yeah,
us.
grant proceeds.
Oh, there we go, okay, well house, oh, I see what you mean.
Okay. Oh, I see.
No, this grants are a wash.
Well, let's not get into all that issue, but what I'm trying to say is this. Get this accounting,
Oh, she's got it for well house.
yes,
Okay.
so am I missing the loan payments in here?
I'm still looking for them. Oh, wait a minute, line of credit.
Proceed, line of credit proceeds.
And then, yeah.
No,
I mean, is that the consent loan, or are you talking about whatever?
no, I'm talking about each month you're paying some money.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, she just lumped it all in how much is owed, right?
So.
Which that's not even correct though, because we haven't
We
borrowed that much,
But we took out 100,000.
Yeah, we're there.
but we haven't borrowed 120.
Well, anyway, not to get into the nitty gritty, but I'm just saying that I don't see the loan payments. In
The
other words,
loan payment.
you're gonna have some, there's offsetting things here,
Yes,
and I'm not seeing it. My intent here is not to nitty gritty your budget, okay? My intent is to get you to the black as quickly as possible,
okay.
as strategically as possible, because this doesn't look good. When I look at,
I'm not liking it. So,
I think,
it should be broken.
I think you need to grind through this and reshuffle these numbers through the different entities like water. And see how that shakes out, because I think if you delay a little bit on the getting an executive director. A little bit.
Which we're doing.
Okay. I heard on the tape and on the video, which I didn't attend the meeting, because I had to get back to Bob to get the contract done. Did I hear it correctly that the insurance is gonna be 42,000 this year?
Oh, yeah,
Or more?
yeah,
So is that just because you had the claim on the North Shore?
I don't know why,
Is that
It was
up?
30,000 last year.
yeah, it's been big, but I wouldn't be surprised if that's.
37 this year.
Okay, side note, when I was looking at this, I saw that repair on North Shore, was all the seals and all that less than $3,000? That damage was done out here,
No. it's
No.
not.
Much more than that.
Yeah,
so so it
The
didn't appear.
insurance posted out at 44,000, I think,
Well, did you guys marry the two?
but she said she could either reopen it once we get to that far or help us find some other funding.
I'm
he's
not,
asking different questions.
I'm a different question. When I look at the North Shore versus Allen, expenses don't quite add up in my mind, because if there's more than 3,000 related to seals, I don't see that accurately, unless I'm missing something, in the Allen portion of your dock stuff.
I wish Aaron was on this.
Questions, you're just replaying
Yeah,
it.
no, that's been happening. Yeah.
Yeah, I know, that's,
Yeah, that was terrible.
so all I'm getting at is just that there's some chunks missing, and I wanna make sure we're accounting for, and maybe they're into something else.
And
I'm not trying to criticize whether this is right or wrong or high or low. I'm first trying to get the table level,
based on it, don't.
because I think if you start, I don't disagree if you're looking at these different charges you're paying and looking to see if there's ways to reduce it. I think that's great.
Yeah.
But personally, I think you need to get a couple bases here, one your general fund and one your water fund,
Yeah.
and then start extrapolating from there.
I agree.
Yeah, I think there should be changes.
That's really good.
And so like, now, true, Cleveland may not pay you, but like on water connection fees,
Yeah.
he owes you 42,000 on block
Yeah.
36, just on Blackwell.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So I'm saying that's not accurately reflected in your.
That's true.
are you catching that, Liam?
Income,
Receivable 87,000.
Oh, okay.
no, well,
That's not included though.
that is, so it's 6,000 per thing, right? So how many are you showing, like he has 12 to 14 outstanding?
87,000.
Yeah. I mean, is that what it boils down to, about?
Yeah, we were gonna lien a couple of his properties, we agreed to do that.
Have you been talking to him?
Not since Larry died.
No, I've had trouble getting hold of myself, so
Yeah.
he owes me to.
Not at all.
So that, you know what, it's funny you say that, and I don't wanna get in the other issue, but that was one of my concerns.
What?
Was, you know, moving into everything here as far as the money looks great and everything, but at the same time. You know,
Unfortunately, Larry didn't follow one of your policies in your water system. And that was one of my, well, like Judy and I have discussed randomly in other conversations, is that because he didn't, competing with the port as a water system there, where he gave water, where he didn't have water, it really jammed us all up. Well, we'll do.
Policy for collections,
So that's my
policy regarding the user and the hookup.
We already have some already, but.
Well, I know there's these 7, so that means there's gotta be at least more than, and I would guess. I don't know, you think there's only 7 left down here and no, saying, looking at the billing, is all in the block. On Wheelwright and on Sullivan, there's only 7 not paid for so far,
He paid for Sullivan,
all of them?
but he didn't pay for some older ones.
It's
awful.
Can you do me a favor?
Yeah.
It's a records request.
Yeah.
Can you just give me a dump on the journal paid by Serial Homes?
Gotta write it down, write it down.
Oh,
You make it a public record.
You want the voices?
And
I
that's
don't
what,
want to, I just want to see the ledger, and what's
Yeah.
charge, I want to see the accounting. Because I
I'll
don't,
show you right now.
No, we,
we're working the budget, I'm trying to look for money that goes to the port.
Right.
Yeah.
I also, as a vendor to Serial Homes,
Mhm.
have debts deals made, like on stormwater stuff. Big, not as big as yours, but big,
yeah, okay, well, let's keep going.
Yeah.
So
so,
what other comments do you have on this? Because I really
Really
wonder.
appreciate it.
yeah, strategically, look at this whole thing for water. Make some resolution or some policy statement or something, say from now, we're gonna put 10% or 15%. Of everything that touches water, i.e. labor. Director, whatever, commission. To water. That will unload some of your value, your costs on your expenses on the general fund.
Yes.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
I mean, that makes sense.
People have been trying to get us to do
We
that.
do.
Yeah.
No, COVID stuff.
I'm thinking, this is a broken record that's been spinning for a long time.
Yeah,
Well, it's getting fixed now.
Yeah,
right, and
well,
we,
people are listening.
and we have someone that really enjoys and actually very good at what she does, and so we're doing a lot of things better in a lot of areas, so it'll be a
I
time.
hope that come
10%.
I hope I
Yeah.
come across to the board as consistent. It's not just me or the water system or whatever.
Yeah,
That I'm gonna come across and say, do this, not because it helps me, but it helps all of us.
Well, the things you're saying
Yeah.
make sense. So we
I
gotta do
I
things
still
that make sense.
hung up, I had no problem leaving that one resolution,
Which one?
the one you guys voted for, but then Linda. I said, legal, that's fine,
Yeah.
yeah, the motion,
You
I
know,
think it worked fine, but that's
No,
fine. You did your- did your-
I like what we're doing.
Yeah.
Okay, no, I.
They just gave you the option, you didn't have to revisit this. Okay, I don't think there's anything else on it. I talked about the seals, there's some expenses not showing up, at least the waterfront dock,
We haven't replaced anything yet, but we're going to.
that's fine.
So we want insurance up top and then. Investments for the insurance.
I have a question. I'm on page 1 now. Our cell phones was at the purchase of, and I'm under administrative. 2,900. Was at the purchase of new phones this last year because some of them were going belly up or what?
Have to look at that.
Okay,
Where are you right now?
I'm on page 1 under expense, under administrative. There's-
We pay Verizon. 200 and something a month for one, for all phones. And then we pay them $50 a month for the data lines up at the short.
Okay, so 200 a month for all 4 phones?
Yeah.
Phones?
Yeah,
Well, that's not too bad though.
you know,
that's. And
I know what I pay.
I know, I'm paying a lot under myself. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I think I'm gonna just do. Is that what you do?
Yeah, I think you do.
But I wanted to put my,
After that meeting.
I have two bits. You know, with regards to budget
Okay.
and I think strategically, if you guys, all three commissioners look at that and come to some agreement, I think that would greatly help. It doesn't
Yeah,
put you all the way there, but it's start to piece together. Because I cringe every time you talk about raising rates, you know, for the park or for the different things, what have you. But I also understand costs, so just I can get that reconciled.
that was another suggestion that Aaron had, because they charge $10 to launch over at Manchester. And we have so many more amenities there, we're only charging. We're charging.
Seven.
10.
oh, I don't remember doing seven.
Okay.
Well, all I would say is that as a taxpayer in the district, when I first go through this process about not touching the rates at all.
Right.
And work the way through, and then hammer it a couple more times and see where we get. Because I think we'll get the big piece over under if you can get.
Well, and plus we're gonna cut some things, so I think we'll. Okay.
Well,
Get a
I'm
better.
concerned about the insurance side.
I am too.
Well, and we're kind of stuck on that. I mean,
Yeah.
we,
Everybody says the same thing at the meetings.
yeah,
Well,
well,
it's a fool.
and I have to say, when we've gone to Washington Public Courts Association, because we deal with Honduras a lot, we can talk to them personally sometimes, we have gotten reductions. So I think having having a relationship with them, maybe we cut some costs there, I don't know.
Well,
But,
we asked the lobbyists and they're gonna come up with a couple of options for us.
Right.
okay,
Yeah.
No, but at the same time, as a taxpayer, right there for this.
oh, yeah,
You do have to look at your risks and cover those so that if it goes bad, we're not all on the hook.
yeah,
All I would ask is make sure that your policies cover the water system, please. Mine did.
Well, see that again.
Make sure that your policies cover all aspects of the water system,
Okay.
yes,
because I don't think
good point.
mine didn't know my
You're right.
things. And, you know, crap happens. I mean, it's been in the ground now 13, 14 years and nothing's gone bad.
Yeah.
Mine. But, you know, we have this construction that keeps going on up there. Yes, we collect bills, but a lot of times we might have insurance claims, so. I just,
Yeah, I'm gonna make sure, we need to look into that with our insurance company, having the water system insured and.
It is, I look
Okay.
at.
well, but the stuff you're gonna add a booster probably at some point.
I don't think we added the pump. I mean, not added the pump, it's on our policy, but I don't think we turned in that expense.
Okay,
And I'm not saying that, turn that
Yeah,
expensive. I'm just, I'm really saying, make sure the port. Cause now you're gonna have 50, 60, 70 users on it,
correct, so.
you know, the
Yeah.
issue goes up.
Upgrade yeah, I understand.
Yeah.
I mean, I understood where you're going with it,
Yeah.
upgrading our insurance policy to make sure all this is now covered,
Yeah,
once that turns over. Correct,
yes,
yes,
I'm seeing two different things. One, to make sure you're covered.
right,
Two, oh, by the way, you're bringing on this.
Yeah.
I understand.
Okay.
Okay.
Anyway, we'll do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right.
Thank you.
Glorious.
Thank you, Ted.
You bet.
And shake your hand, Ted.
That's a fist bump, is it?
Yeah, good pump there.
But anyway, thanks for taking the time, and I know it was making, you know, sausage trying to get through that contract, but. You know, we have that one issue at the end, we'll figure out how we hammer that out. I've talked to Bob about it, so we'll see how we hammer that out. I understand. And I'll see if I can, if it becomes a sticking issue, I'll try to communicate it better to the court, because I think once you understand where he's trying to go, that it's not an issue.
Okay.
But again, you have to listen to your counsel and say, I'm not legal. But if I use the words again, if Bob is correct in how you introduced evidence, should we ever have this issue? Which most likely won't.
True,
You know, 999.99 shouldn't. But, you know, I died, so that's true, and then the next thing you know, was heaven forbid, now I'll say who. You know,
Okay,
now you know this.
yes,
So, anyway,
Thanks, Lynn.
we'll take the time to explain it.
okay,
Thank you, Mike.
thank you. See you later.
I think we just solved your budget.
Well, it's solid, but it got really, I know what you're saying.
Legal services, I wanna go back to page 1.
Yeah. I'm thinking 2,000.
Um,
Professional and technology.
So. If we should be facing another,
Round of Gary,
yes,
another round of my head.
we don't have to necessarily go down the trail that we did.
No.
So
I think we should.
that's really all I wanna say about that right now.
Yeah.
But, you know, again, we have these legal issues, you know,
Yeah.
today was the cost, so. It's something that maybe we can revisit,
Yeah.
Lobbyists, you're going to look into that and see if
Yep, I
they will
already
work
did.
with us,
Yeah, I called them last week.
okay?
She said they'll put together a couple of different proposals for you to choose from.
And state auditor is, are we?
If we go back real quick, if we go back to lobbyists, I would like to see them focus on one aspect is replacing the pier this year. I think we have enough projects going where we don't need to have a lobbyist reaching for a whole lot of money, except keeping the legislators and whoever our US folks ears open that we need to replace that pier. So whatever that expense is going to be, where they just worked on that one project, I'd be happy for it.
Okay,
Okay, I'll keep that in mind when I talk to her next.
okay.
All in one.
State auditor. Now, is this like cause we don't get audited every year.
No.
We already had our audit last year,
Yeah.
22, correct?
Yeah.
So. We aren't gonna be required for that
Correct.
this time, correct? So there's 24, or what was that here? There's 9,000.
Yep.
So that can be out of the budget,
Yeah, I think we used to always have like
or,
$2,000 every year. We applied to that.
okay, yeah, so we're prepared then.
Yeah.
Well, maybe that could be in reserve, because we don't,
Yeah,
you know, let's have that as a reserve, that
yeah, I'll
the
send you the
2,000.
email Erin sent to me earlier. She's got, it's 2 months worth of expenses
Okay,
that you want in the reserve.
okay,
And she figured it's about 64,000.
okay,
We need to have that. We need to get there.
okay.
Yeah,
Well, then part of this, that 9,000 can actually go into
Yeah.
the reserve. And everybody follow me on
Yeah,
that?
but only not full 9,000.
No, but,
2,000, I think. something
Correct.
Like that. I just moved 2,000 over the right as a little note for myself.
okay,
Okay. Are you following that, Commissioner Jackson? I don't-
Yes, got it.
All right.
now who is the Great American Financial IT Services?
that's our lease with Help Desk.
Yeah,
Okay, and help desk Calvary
And
is,
yeah, I just talked to her this morning. I talked to her last week and said, send me the contracts and a breakdown of what we're paying on this.
okay,
They're working on it.
okay, so that might be able to be reduced, or that's for stuck for,
I don't know, I have to see. the
Okay.
contract. Yeah,
that's crazy money right there
I know,
for that.
yeah.
All right.
I know, because you can call in a computer guy if you have an issue
Right.
for a couple $100. Go buy a new computer in Costco, that's even less.
Okay.
So the copy machine lease, that's pretty standard, that's something that we're gonna have to keep, correct?
Yeah, I don't know how long that is.
Okay,
That was for the whole year that we're paying that? $2,000?
I'll ask them how long our lease is for.
well, it's year to date, yeah, so it would be,
Yeah.
Leanne, do we pay more for color copiers after we hit a certain point, or is that just per year?
The bill varies, that's Wells Fargo.
Yeah, that's the same one we go through at the United Way, and it varies after you hit a certain amount of copies or color copies. It could go up or down, so,
Yeah, so we've got the copier set to black and white.
okay.
I just did color for these contracts because they were redlined, but that made it easier to read.
Membership dues and subscriptions, you know, by the way, with EDC, I know it's a catch-22 about EDC, you know, like, what do we do with it? I kind of felt like we still need to belong to EDC, but it's 2,500 and they want their money right away.
Yeah.
Washington Public Courts is critical that we stay with that, so that's 800, I think.
Yeah.
So that's my suggestion, I just wanted to talk about that one and say that we kind of needed to stay with some of that,
Yeah,
if you guys are good with that. Because I don't think we belong to anything else, we're not North Mason Chamber.
AVA, is that building association?
Oh, yeah, are we kids at Builders
you
Association?
have to, because of Larry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought we were part of, North Mason Chamber.
Yeah, and
We
I,
are, I just got. I just
How much
got a
is
bill
that?
from you.
how much,
For your
that's,
luncheon, it's $25.
oh, okay,
Now,
Okay.
I think we pay $100 to them.
okay, well, that's all right then. Okay,
I'm a
those
member.
are my questions on that.
I'm a member of KVA and it's like $500
Yeah.
or $600 a year.
Yeah,
So do we stay with that? That's something that maybe we could,
but he's already a member.
Right.
if you're already a member, then we can kind of, do we?
I don't see why not.
And because only we would just occasionally use their
Right,
building,
right.
really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we'll see about that.
Unless all of a sudden I don't have money to pay my dues. But right now.
And then they're gonna split the rest up between 2 more payments of 9,000.
Oh, boy.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay,
In 3 months,
yeah, ouch,
so it'll be 18,000 this year again.
okay.
Alright. But the total cost, like going back to that for insurance, just to have insurance, about 42 grand, isn't it?
44.
44.
Yeah, let's see what we can do about that.
We need to reflect that better in here when we talk to Aaron, you're making good notes and stuff over there. Alright,
The other thing that's always been, you know, when we agreed to do the sidewalks in Allyn and the lighting project. There was a sunset on that cost, I think, or was that?
That's what Travis was asking too.
Because that's a pretty big chunk.
Last time I tried to get out of that. It was hard.
And that's on page 2,
Yeah.
under Allyn Marina Waterfront Highway Lighting. So that's another one, let's see if we can do. You know, it is good of Allyn, but you know, if we have to turn off lights, then maybe we'll have to turn off lights.
See?
Cause it lights up the whole area.
Yeah, that was a rusty deal. We didn't see that in the contract, and then they're calling for money and sending us bills, and it's like, what's going on? We just read it.
Yeah,
Yeah. But I know when Larry first started, we called him. When we were still under contract. But yeah, no, I think it was for a certain amount of years.
I thought so too, that there was a sunset on it.
Yeah,
But again, maybe that's something that, you know, maybe we need to find out, and if we have to turn off lights, then we need to turn off lights.
yeah.
Or at least every other light, or whatever we need to do, CPUB will work with us on that.
I mean, is it a safety issue?
Well, I don't remember, I don't think we light all of Allyn, I know that we light
That's
up,
just Lakeland.
yeah, up to Wheelwright,
Yeah.
correct? Is the lights up to Wheelwright?
I think Lakeland works.
That's crazy.
Well, it was a park grant from WashDOT that went into the
The
project,
sidewalk,
yeah, the sidewalks. That was part of
but
it.
it's stuck us with, bill, everyone.
Well, without that, I
$300
mean, what's that look like without that lighting? Is it really dark? we saying there are other lighting, it's like,
No, there's no other lighting unless it's just the store, you know. And I don't know, I don't remember who owns that, the store complex up there. It used to be Hamilton's, but I don't think they own it anymore, do they?
I don't think so.
Okay,
Could ask Richard Bell, he knows.
okay. But that's something that you can check that box to see if PUD would work with us, or, you know, what we can do to use that. Well, that's only my big concerns. I think the rest that I see. See what there is, so there we go. So why is North Shore? Let me see, what's that? Need inserted. Well, let's make that repair, okay. Any other thoughts, commissioners?
Bills.
other than,
Right. I have a couple. One I'd like to see under expenses, two line items, one under salary, for the, Port of Allen water system. So we could start, I do agree with Jeff that some of those funds should be going to pay for salary, whether it's Dawn time, Leanne's time, or the commissioner's time. First 2 hours of our day was just spent on the water system. And then two, I'd like an ER&R fund where we'll start doing equipment replacement and start putting money into there. If you remember, a couple years ago, we had to buy a truck for Dawn. It would be nice to carry some reserves each year, and that we build up that fund in case we need to do something. One thing I could see right offhand is that shed down there that we use for Allen days and storage. Maybe we could work with the Allyn Community Association, but that shed needs to be replaced, and we need to have a little better security down there. And I don't see anything, and this is my third thing, on security cameras.
Travis is gonna work on that. He was talking about that.
Okay, but I don't see anything in our budget regards to security cameras. So I know that was a big thing that we were trying to do. So as much money as we want to set aside, it's been a hassle ever since we found out we don't have the internet connections up on the North Shore. But I would like to see us fund security cameras.
Okay. See what we can do on that one, we'll have to revisit
Maybe,
that.
maybe there's funding out there for
you got a lot of guns for here.
it.
Anything else that we need to, now, of course, once we get through this with suggestions and all that. Do you want to try to revisit this on our next meeting?
I put a public hearing notice out
That was for the 3rd though, or the 4th of December,
for the 4th, yeah, Monday.
okay. But do we want to look at this before we get,
Oh, after Aaron redoes it again, I'll send
Yeah.
it to you guys.
okay,
I mean, we'll look at it, but we can come together
Okay.
on that.
Yeah, maybe we can add that to the agenda for Wednesday.
well, if you want to talk about it. I'm with you, I'm busier than.
No, it's not about being too busy, it's
You're
just
busy,
about,
what?
it's, my thoughts on that is, we can all look at that, and I'm okay on the 4th of December. Over that.
I know Ken will have some comments here.
But do we have to approve it on the 4th?
Well, technically, boards are supposed to have theirs done by the 5th.
Yeah,
We're
that's what
already
I'm
later
saying,
than the county.
huh?
We're already later than the county, but we've got, Bonnie had to straighten them out before.
It's a proposed budget that we need work on.
But we're supposed to have it approved
Yeah.
by the 5th.
by
And
the
that's what I'm saying is that we need to have this in line so that we have it approved on the 4th.
All right.
So that's what I'm saying, we might want to add it when our next meeting on Wednesday.
I agree.
Yep, at what time again? I didn't hear. What time are you asking for the meeting on Wednesday? Because I do have a Department of Commerce meeting at 2 o'clock on Wednesday.
Well, they said that 3, didn't they?
What?
I already sent out a notice for 3, but I can send out a new notice.
No, that's, I don't want to,
3,
I didn't hear what time.
it's at 3,
Okay,
But it's
and it shouldn't be more than an hour,
Right,
right?
this was a marathon.
3 P.M. on
On Wednesday, the 29th.
I know.
Okay.
Wait. They talk too much.
2 things, the well, the budget.
Yeah, purchase and sale agreement.
Yeah.
And then the budget,
All right,
and that's mostly just comments and a revision,
Yeah,
to observe the revision and any quick comments about it.
okay, yeah.
and we do need to have public comment on it, correct?
yeah, that's scheduled, we got a public hearing scheduled for the 4th.
Yeah.
Okay,
generally-
perfect.
And
generally
it's,
that's-
it's a legal notice, so I can't really change that.
But generally, it's either before or after the meeting, so the public hearing is separate, as you all know.
Yeah.
So that would be before,
Right in there.
huh?
Then we put right in the middle of the agenda.
Okay, well, we could do that.
Yeah.
You know, I know when Bonnie was on board, we used to do it a half an hour before
Yeah,
the regular meeting.
there you go. That would keep comment down a little.
But it depends on what everybody wants to do. We can do it right at 6 o'clock and then have our regular meeting at 6:30.
That could work.
I'm happy with doing it at 5:30 and just having our regular meeting at 6. If that works for the other 2 commissioners.
That would be our public hearing.
Okay, but the
Yep.
legal notice at 6 o'clock.
Okay, so why don't we just leave it at 6 and then we'll have our general meeting at
6:30.
6:30.
Does that sound okay?
Yep, that sounds
Right.
perfect, because that keeps us out of trouble with the legal notice.
Okay. We got that, 6 o'clock on the 4th. Okay,
And we've got to present that plaque.
yeah, but that will be during the regular meeting.
Yeah.
And we'll do that,
I'll tell her to just come at 6:30
yeah.
unless she wants to comment about the budget.
Well, and with the agenda for that day too, I don't know if you want to carry on business first or go ahead and do the presentation first.
I would say do the presentation first.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. Are you guys good with that, doing the presentation first?
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay,
Yeah, that makes sense. And we have to vote on the levy certification, the 1%.
yeah,
That's gonna help the budget too, because I don't think she added the 1%.
okay.
Okay.
Only a couple thousand, but every little bit helps.
Yeah, no, that's right.
Yeah,
Okay.
so and I already sent in the paperwork to the county that said we're doing, that we want to do the levy, yeah.
Okay, and then designation of
Your seats.
officers
Yep.
and trustees, you know, for Washington Public Courts. Okay. We'll be busy.
Yes, it'll be.
and I either get sworn in this meeting or the next meeting. It doesn't matter to me.
Oh, that's
I
right.
think it's January when you get,
January.
I think it's January when you get sworn in.
No, it's right after the election.
Oh, is it?
Since I was unopposed, it's right after the election. Yeah, as soon as the election's certified. Yeah.
Okay, well, do you have to have a judge come up here to do that?
No, either one of the board members or another court commissioner or any elected official can do it.
I never got
Okay.
sworn in.
I thought you did.
I swear I did.
So we may want to make that official, if you didn't. I don't think you did either. So,
They just should tag me in. Okay,
Okay, well, that goes on the agenda too. We've got that all,
Yeah.
there's a lot of stuff. We're gonna be busy.
I've already got my notes going over there.
I don't-
As things pop in my head while I'm randomly doing other things.
Yeah. Anything else? Are we done?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
So
I
moved.
second.
Okay, so moved. Bye.
Have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jen.
You bet.